Health Studios. This is KSL News Radio,
Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
9 o'clock at KSL News Radio. I'm Amanda Dixon. Let's look at some of our top stories. A new legislative audit is scrutinizing Utah's public colleges and universities for some of its programs and how useful they actually are. And it could be another sign of pending budget cuts. KSL News Radio's Adam Small has details.
This audit calls out Utah's 8 public higher ed institutions for not cutting programs that don't lead to graduation, high-paying jobs, or jobs that support what Utah's workforce needs. And according to the Salt Lake Tribune, it also urges schools to start tracking the success rates of their programs and make decisions on them based on how they stack up.
Just days before the audit, Utah's House Speaker was already pushing to cut how much money the state gives to public colleges and universities. A teenager is dead after a hiking accident in Taylor Canyon last week. The Weber County Sheriff's Office told the Standard-Examiner the 17-year-old appeared to have fallen off a cliff onto the rocks below. He was located and taken to the hospital, where he later died of his injuries. Our top national story now from ABC News. President-elect Donald Trump has picked his former Attorney General Matthew Whitaker to be the U.S. ambassador to NATO. He served under the Trump administration from November 2018 to February 2019. Your money at this moment, the Dow is off 27 points right now. We're at 43,241. We are going to warm up today. KSL weather is coming up next. KSL News Time now, 9:02.
Doesn't just mean information or dates.
It's the story of our local history being told in real time.
Be a part of the story. This is Tim Hughes and Amanda Dixon.
We hope to be a part of your story. We have you covered on KSL News Radio.
Hi, I'm Ty Detmer. We buy our jewelry from Sierra West Jewelers because of the great service, large selection, the diamond education, and the lowest prices. Sierra West Jewelers offers a VIP service package that my wife and I love. The VIP package includes free lifetime warranty, 50% off men's band with purchase of engagement ring, a free electric ring cleaner, a free $50 gift card to Ruth's Chris Steakhouse, plus 14 other free services. Buy at Sierra West Jewelers. I promise you'll never regret it.
Hello, this is Tim Branscombe, founder and president of Sierra West Jewelers. If you're looking for that special gift or if you need it custom made, come to Sierra West Jewelers, where we have the largest selections of rubies, sapphires, and emeralds, diamond earrings, bracelets, and pendants. Only at Sierra West Jewelers in our quality and our VIP service. Sierra West Jewelers across from the mall in Sandy, Orem, and Murray, or at sierrawestjewelers.com.
Do you have chirping smoke detectors? What's up, everybody? I'm Mike Wilson with Any Hour Services, and if you've ever experienced chirping smoke detectors, you already know how annoying it can be. A great first step to try and stop the chirping is to change the batteries. If the chirping continues, it's possible that your smoke detector has gone bad. As a matter of fact, a lot of people don't even realize that manufacturers recommend replacing the smoke detector altogether after 10 years. If you remove the smoke detector from the wall, on the back you should find a date of when it was made. Do a little math and you'll know how old it is. Now, Any Hour Services knows being a homeowner means you've got a list a mile long of things to do around the house, and check my electrical system probably isn't one of them. That's why we've put together this radio special for any homeowners listening. One of our licensed electricians will perform a comprehensive inspection of your electrical system that includes testing those smoke detectors and give you a full written report for only $29. But you have to mention this ad when you call. Call Any Hour Services to schedule at 801-443-7300. 801-443-7300. Any Hour Services.
Whenever I walk through the doors at the Ruth's Chris Steakhouse, whether it's Hotel Park City or downtown Salt Lake City, I know that I am in for a wonderful dining experience, and my guests, my family, whoever is going with me, they're going to have a wonderful experience too. The food is absolutely superb, but the service too is incredible. Just the ambiance and the environment. And when that sizzling hot plate comes out of the kitchen with that steak or the seafood or the poultry dish is perfectly prepared, it's just wonderful. And I often talk about this. There's something so incredible about that first bite at Ruth's Chris Steakhouse. It is something you just look forward to. Whether it's a side dish, whether it's a dessert, whatever your favorites are, why don't you put it all together for the perfect meal that's waiting for you at Ruth's Chris Steakhouse. Hotel Park City, downtown Salt Lake City.
Traffic and weather together, brought to you by Sinclair's Dino Pay app. Save up to 20 cents per gallon. And here's Heather Kelly.
Well, crews are still trying to clean up a crash northbound I-15 in Lehigh. It's just after you would merge on from Timpanogos Highway. It's now over on the left shoulder, but delays have stretched back to 2100 north. But the delays will continue after that crash all the way over the point of the mountain to about 33rd South and South Salt Lake due to other crashes we've had. We also have a crash now on the east side belt, I-215 northbound, just before you get to the Foothill Boulevard exit. You've got 2 left lanes blocked, only 1 right lane, and it's actually everybody's moving using the right shoulder to get around that, backing traffic up almost to 4500 south. Get started on your dream kitchen or bath countertops with special financing from Bedrock Quartz for up to 18 months. Visit bedrockquartz.com for details. That's bedrockquartz.com. Heather Kelly in the KSL Traffic Center.
It's going to be sunny today and a little warmer, up to 52 for a high. Right now, 37 degrees. I'm Amanda Dixon from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Dave and Dujanovic, your morning companions for talk, analysis, and key perspectives on Utah's biggest stories on KSL News Radio.
Well, in just a few minutes, Dave, we're going to go live to Washington, D.C. To check in with News Nation because, of course, we are learning in the last several hours that President-elect Donald Trump is going to nominate Dr. Mehmet Oz, who ran for Senate, lost to Senator John Fetterman, also TV personality, to run Medicare and Medicaid.
Yeah, what stands out to me with some of these picks, even though they're a little bit of a head-scratcher in some cases, what makes people famous does not necessarily make them disqualified or, for that matter, even qualified. But I think it will be fascinating to learn more about some of these nominations. It's 9:07. It's time for the launch.
Sequence engaged.
And here's 3 things that Debbie wants you to know.
Countdown. 3.
Is the EV honeymoon over? Ford Motor Company announcing big job cuts, specifically in Europe. 14% of the workforce. Reuters reporting this morning that what's driving part of this is, well, declining interest in electric vehicles like the one Dave just bought. In Germany alone, though, listen to this, Dave. In Germany alone, in the first 9 months of this year, according to Reuters, EV sales are down, I'm going to call it almost 29% there. So, Ford is calling on the German government to offer better charging options, for charging stations and incentives to buyers. Dave, you're our EV guy. You drive an EV. I think you didn't you get a tax rebate or something for buying it? So I'm just really curious about your take on this. We're going to go in depth at 9:35.
Yeah, there were some huge incentives out there. There's currently incentives out there. If you buy a new EV, you get $7,000 off. If you even buy a used EV like I did, I got $4,000 in a tax rebate. So this is, I think, as much as I enjoy my EV, this is the dangers of moving too fast. Liking the idea. You have to wait for demand to drive supply. And I think the U.S. government and the world has been so intrigued by EVs, they just move too fast.
Countdown. 2.
We're going to go right on the money in our 10 o'clock hour, digging out of debt as we're faced with holiday spending. Avoiding the impulse buy is our top topic in the 10 o'clock hour. If your goal is to stop adding to your debt or get out of debt, then there's one big thing that's could be driving you deeper into it, and that's the impulse buy. There's a new survey out that talks all about our tendencies to impulse buy, and I'll tell you the one thing that surprised me about this survey when it comes to those last-minute purchases and where we get the idea to make that purchase. Yeah, that's right. It's on social media. So we're going to go in-depth on that. Now, if you've been listening to us all week, our listeners here on the show, Dave, have been calling in on how they've stayed debt-free and changed their spending patterns. The number one takeaway from this listener who lives in Cedar Hills, financial discipline.
Person who gives financial advice, and he said, You make enough money to get out of debt. Live differently starting tomorrow, and you can do it.
Live differently starting tomorrow. I love that bumper sticker for about a million different reasons. But can I tell you what my latest impulse buy was? Over $200 in hockey gear.
What?
I went to my first hockey game, and I was so excited. I impulse bought polos, hoodies, pullovers. I've got all this Utah hockey gear. That was my impulse buy. I got caught up in the moment, Deb.
Launch countdown 1.
Up next on President-elect Donald Trump's list of nominees, Dr. Oz.
I've got simple, revolutionary new ways to change your health forever.
That's right. Oprah's go-to TV doctor could be next, heading up the department overseeing Medicare and Medicaid, Dave.
Remember, it was Dr. Oz. He lost his Senate race in Pennsylvania a couple years ago to John Fetterman. But just because he's famous doesn't mean he can't do the job. It's so easy to diminish his role to the TV doctor that was peddling all these crazy supplements, with Oprah, or is it the cardiothoracic surgeon? Remember, just 8 years ago, Trump was being dismissed as just a billionaire TV star. And now Americans are so happy with the job he did, he got reelected.
Dave and Dujanovic.
The Launch.
Commence.
Dave and Dujanovic. Special coverage of the top national story.
Over the next 20 minutes, we're going to go in depth on President-elect Donald Trump's cabinet picks so far. We're breaking it down into 3 categories, right, Dave?
Yes. The boring, the controversial, and then the surprises.
Which one is the biggest surprise for you?
Okay, well, can I go through the boring first?
Sure.
Because Senator Marco Rubio for state, Elise Stefanik as UN ambassador, Doug Burgum, the former governor, over interior. Like, no one's batting an eyelash at those. The controversial ones, obviously, Florida Representative Matt Gaetz.
There's another man, totally unqualified. Yesterday, I called for the release of the House Ethics Committee report on Congressman Matt Gaetz, which he believed he could resign from Congress and keep from public review. This is a critical part of the question as to whether or not he is worthy to be the leading law enforcement official in the United States of America. I don't think he is, and many Republicans are agreeing with me.
Now, that was Democratic Senator Dick Durbin. Of course, you're going to get pushback from the Democrats. And ultimately, the Republicans are going to have to rally around Matt Gaetz if they want him as his attorney general.
And then second on the list, RFK Jr. for Health and Human Services.
Yeah, and you saw this recently as well. Caroline Kennedy, who I think is the ambassador to Australia, was speaking about Bobby Kennedy Jr., and how it differs from her Uncle Teddy's work when it comes to affordable health care.
Yes, I think Bobby Kennedy's views on vaccines are dangerous, and but I don't think that most Americans share them. So we'll just have to wait and see what happens, but certainly he's, I grew up with him, so I've known all this for a long time, and and others are just getting to know him. But that's, my Uncle Teddy spent 50 years fighting for affordable health care in the Senate, and it's something that our whole family is so proud of.
Now, Bobby Kennedy has some things that have really resonated with a lot of people. Instead of focusing just on health care, he's talking about being healthy and getting some of the chemicals and stuff and processed food and removed from a lot of the food in U.S.
And
diets.
over the years, he's been critical of vaccines to some extent. And then there's defense nominee for Defense Secretary, Fox News host Pete Hegseth. Straight ahead, we're going to go live to Washington, D.C., where News Nation is standing by. They'll go in depth on that nomination and the others, including Dr. Oz, RFK Jr., and many more. Straight ahead.
Dave and Dujanovic.
You know KSL is the only news radio for your car, right?
The only news radio for your smart speaker.
Come here in the morning. It's the latest news and traffic. In the afternoon, news and updated weather.
We have you covered at KSL News Radio.
One of the things I love about Macy's Harvest of Hope is that it's going to feed kids. It's really focusing on supporting children that are struggling with food insecurity. There are so many that are just in your neighborhoods. You may not even realize this, but in Utah, there are 317,000 people, about 1 in 11 individuals that are struggling with food insecurity. And with Macy's Harvest of Hope, they're hoping to raise $200,000 to help put some food in some bellies. One of the great ways to do it is actually just to show up to one of the Macy's stores, find a team member. Then at checkout, you can find these bags, and for $5, it represents the food that many of the food banks are in desperate need of: peanut butter, mac and cheese, chili, the tuna fish, box meals. Participating in Harvest of Hope is super easy. You can make that simple donation at the register, or you can purchase these prepackaged bags of food. But you can also go online. If you're not near a Macy's and you want to do it right now, just go to Macys.com/online to participate in Macy's Harvest of Hope. Just go to Macys.com/online.
BYU's season comes down to sudden death. Now it's a one-game season. Beat Arizona State for a path to the championship game.
Moa running hard, 15 and 12-yard line for Sione Moa.
This Saturday, it's do or die. BYU, Arizona State. KSL special extended pregame starts Saturday at 11, and kickoff is at 1:30 on Utah's legacy home of the Cougars, KSL News Radio.
This Thanksgiving weekend, the Utah Symphony's annual Messiah Sing-In returns. This event is more than just a tradition. It's an unforgettable experience. Lend your voice to the famous Hallelujah Chorus as the majesty and holiday spirit resonates through Marisa Bravenel Hall. November 30th and December 1st at 7:30. Learn more at utahsymphony.org.
Can we talk, Amanda, for just a minute about UCCU's elevated checking? We haven't done that in a while.
And elevated checking at UCCU has so many benefits. I mean, bigger, better benefits that you probably know. For instance, it comes with a lot of lifestyle benefits like cell phone protection and 24/7 roadside assistance. The thing I use a lot is telehealth with no copay.
Yeah, that is amazing. And security benefits, too, like identity theft monitoring, something I didn't even know existed, dark web monitoring, and they have identity theft resolution with up to $10,000 in ID theft reimbursement.
Plus, elevated checking comes with awesome financial benefits, of course, like free ATMs nationwide, an exclusive discount on any new UCCU auto or RV loan, and access to UCCU's credit score toolbox.
You should also know that elevated checking is so easy to get for free. All you have to do is use your debit or credit card or set up your direct deposit.
So how do you get elevated checking? Just go to uccu.com/elevated.
UCCU, love where you bank.
At Gillette Services, you're more than just a customer. You're family. We pride ourselves on delivering exceptional HVAC and plumbing services with a personal touch. Whether it's a routine checkup or an emergency, we're here for you. Get a $49 tune-up for the first 50 callers. Call 385-GET-HEAT today. That's 385-438-4328 today.
A Carrier Factory authorized dealer.
You want fast? Soda Weight Loss delivers fast results. I just got a reminder on my phone from a year ago. I had started the program in September. By this time, I had already let go of 30 pounds of fat weight, on my way to letting go of 70. My friend John Smith, how did it go for you?
You know what's funny is you'd think that would be like a very rare occurrence for you to lose that much in that amount of time. But I started on August 28th. I am down 32 pounds.
Because Soda tailors it to each customer. That's what's so great about it. It stands for state of the art. And here's the kicker. No drugs, shots, pills, or crazy side effects. It's fast, easy, and convenient. You won't be hungry. You don't count calories. And it's designed for a busy lifestyle. Here's the thing. Go check it out for yourself. SOTAweightloss.com. That's SOTAweightloss.com. Request a nutritionist callback and ask them about Soda's biggest savings of the year on the holiday special. Remember, John, Soda, say it with me. State of the art.
That was fun.
With the 3 things you need to know this hour, I'm Amanda Dixon. First, Comcast is planning to spin off most of its cable channels into a separate company that includes MSNBC and CNBC. Second, UDOT is aiming to make a serious gain on their Mountain View Corridor project before winter sets in. And third, a teenager is dead after a hiking accident in Taylor Canyon last week. Search and rescue crews say he likely fell from a cliff. Right now, it's partly cloudy and 37 degrees downtown. Back to David Dujanovic on KSL News Radio.
Dave and Dujanovic. Special coverage of the top national story.
Going in depth on President-elect Donald Trump's cabinet picks. As Dave said, the boring, the controversial, and the surprises. The latest nomination appears to be Dr. Mehmet Oz. He's a came to fame thanks to Oprah Winfrey and being on the Oprah show. Most recently lost his Senate race to John Fetterman. But there's others. There's RFK Jr. That seems to be one of the more maybe controversial picks. In the boring category, Dave, you said that would be Senator Marco Rubio from Florida for Secretary of State.
Yeah, at this point, Senator Rubio might get all 100 votes from the Senate just so they could all vote down Matt Gaetz.
Also in the controversial category, Matt Gaetz, as you said, just mentioned moments ago. And then the surprises. You pointed out Fox News host Pete Hegseth. Did I say that name right?
Hegseth.
Yeah. Hegseth. Thank you. You corrected me earlier. I'll catch on to that. For Secretary of Defense.
A lot of
just announcing that our own Pete Hegseth will be his Secretary of Defense. Pete, of course, has been a host here at Fox for a number of years. He's an Army veteran where he served in Afghanistan, in Iraq. Wow, that is pretty cool. Gosh, we're gonna miss him at Fox, but that's a gain for the country.
And even Fox News comedian and host Greg Gutfeld is chuckling about Trump raiding the Fox News lineup.
I think the Gutfeld show is going to be staffing the entire White House.
Joining us right now, Joe Khalil from News Nation, Washington correspondent there. Joe, we're talking about Dr. Oz and some of the controversial or the surprise picks. Also, you've got Linda McMahon as the education secretary. Which one do you want to tackle first?
Well, how about this? How about we tackle Matt Gaetz first, only because as I'm talking to you now from the Capitol, Matt Gaetz is here along with J.D. Vance, the vice president-elect. They are in a Capitol office right now as senators come in and out. The goal of theirs today is to try to, warm over maybe some of the more hesitant Republican senators. You guys have been talking about it as one of the more controversial picks. And Senator Marco Rubio being someone who is a boring pick. I will say if you're Donald Trump right now, boring should be a good thing because, that means you don't have to spend political capital. Matt Gaetz is going to be tougher. And part of the reason, obviously, if people haven't heard, the allegations against him are very serious. Potentially sex with a 17-year-old girl is the allegation, and that he paid for her to cross state lines and paid her for sex. That's the allegation. He's not been convicted. But obviously that's a tough pill to swallow for a number of Republican senators. We've heard – I've had many conversations with people here on the Hill who, frankly, I think are going to have a hard time voting for him. But I would just say this, don't underestimate, the pressure that Donald Trump and to a lesser extent J.D. Vance can exert and the voters, who support Donald Trump and want his people in place no matter what. I'll just say quickly, over on the other side of the Capitol, on the House side, the House Ethics Committee is meeting in less than an hour, and they are going to make a decision ultimately as to whether or not to release their report that details all these allegations. They've been working on this report for some 4 years now, so we know there is a lot in there.
Joe Khalil is News Nation Washington, D.C. correspondent, joining us live from D.C. this morning to talk about a string of nominations by President-elect Donald Trump. The latest, Dr. Oz, Joe, and he may eventually be over Medicare and Medicaid. What is the discussion behind the scenes on that you're hearing?
So I've heard several things. I think Dr. Oz is not going to be one of the nominees that gets any Democrats to support him, unlike probably Elise Stefanik or Marco Rubio. Dr. Oz may, however, not have trouble with Republicans. And, one reason being Republicans were ready to accept him as the senator from Pennsylvania when he ran 2 years ago. And not to say that that's not an important role. Obviously, it is. Centers for Medicare, Medicaid, very important. But we're not talking about something like the national security of the country. It's not a national defense position. So I can tell you from my conversations, it feels like those kinds of appointments, are less high stakes maybe than the others. And I think all of that, leads to, can you find 50 Republicans to vote for him? I think the answer is likely yes right now, unless something shocking comes out. You're going to hear Democrats, though, make noise about him. And they're going to talk about, in the last couple of years, how during the pandemic and even before then, he has been on TV for the last probably 10 or 12 years and selling a lot of products that he's put his name behind. And, you're going to hear Democrats call those things pseudoscience or pseudo-medicine, which is sort of the same attack line that we had heard Democrats make in 2022 when he ran for Senate on the Republican side. So you can put him in if there's a controversial and a non-controversial category. I guess I might put him somewhere in between. He sort of bridges that gap. But I think the path for him is much clearer than it is for some like, a Tulsi Gabbard or a Matt Gaetz.
One name that popped up, obviously, for Education Secretary is Linda McMahon. Now, some may know the McMahons from their life in professional wrestling, WWE wrestling, but she's also served in the Trump cabinet. She was over the Small Business Administration, right?
Yeah, she did. She ran the SBA in the last Trump administration. By many accounts that were bipartisan, she, did a decent job in that role. She has a business background and history, as you mentioned, with WWE, WWF. She also, by the way, has been around politics for quite some time. She ran twice for the U.S. House, and she lost both times. But, she's not a stranger to the political system. Having been in the SBA role already, she actually does have serious government experience. And I don't hear people, talk about her negatively often on the Republican side even. Most people, I think, see her as somebody who is a capable individual. Having said that, Education Secretary, she does not have, as far as I understand, any background in, education policy or anything like that. So, the detractors, I think that would be the case that they will make. And again, this might be one where, she may not get a whole lot of Democrats supporting her, but Republicans have, 53 seats, in the Senate. So I think her pathway is, again, probably clear. So she may be one that, we talk about a quick and easy vote for her.
Final thought on Pete Hegseth as the defense secretary.
So Hegseth is going to be one of those that's going to take a little bit of work. And I think, I would put Matt Gaetz in his own category, of controversial. That's really tough. I think Hegseth is going to have a difficult time, but I think it's possible that in the next couple of weeks leading into January, it is possible that he ends up, garnering the necessary support that he would need. Again, no help from Democrats in this case, but can you get – basically Republicans can lose 4 senators and J.D. Vance as the vice president can still cast a tie-breaking vote in the Senate for this person. So question is, does he lose 5? If he loses 5 Republicans, he loses. And the concerns are, yes, he's a military veteran. He's a decorated veteran. He hasn't been in a command role, and he also has been on Fox News for the last, decade or so. So those are the concerns, along with he does have some allegations of sexual misconduct that have already surfaced, a case out of California. Those, you can imagine, are going to work their way into the hearing process. I've been told, he's had multiple affairs. That also is going to likely be brought up in the nomination process, whether that's fair or not, his personal life. That stuff comes out. So I think the nomination process is going to get ugly when you have hearings on him.
Joe, I want to ask you. I know Gates has denied the allegations against him. What about Hegseth? Has he similarly denied allegations like that?
He has. There's an NDA involved in that case, so he hasn't said much about it. But his attorney came forward and said that he was the victim of a woman lying to save her marriage. So, in other words, the attorney has come out and said, the allegations here are false. There was a settlement out of court, but again, I think we may hear some ugliness in the nomination process when we get hearings. But yeah, his attorney has denied that any wrongdoing in those cases. So we'll see how that plays out.
Joe, thank you so much for joining us. That was Joe Khalil from News Nation, their Washington correspondent.
9:30 at KSL News Radio. I'm Amanda Dixon. Our top story this hour, Utah lawmakers are working to crack down on massage parlors involved in money laundering, prostitution, and human trafficking. Ryan Wilcox is the chair of the Law Enforcement and Criminal Justice Interim Committee. He's been shocked by how many of these operations we have here.
The Salt Lake metro area is slotting in around 17th in the country per capita.
Today, the committee is meeting to write up some proposed legislation for this coming session. Wilcox says the plan is to create strict penalties and fines so Utah becomes a very difficult place for these organizations to operate. Hundreds of feet of copper wiring has been stolen from streetlights in Sandy. Police say it's the third time in a month this has happened. All of the crimes occurred within a couple of miles of each other. Anyone with details is encouraged to contact the police department. Our top national story this hour from ABC News. The Biden administration is expected to announce more aid to Ukraine.
The U.S. Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin just confirming that the U.S. has agreed to give Ukraine anti-personnel mines and that more aid for Ukraine is going to be announced by the White House sometime today.
ABC News senior foreign correspondent Ian Pannell reporting. Your money at this moment, the Dow is off 161 right now. We're at 43,111. Coming up a little bit warmer today and sunny. KSL weather is next. KSL News Time, 9:32. Great about KSL's traffic coverage? Trained traffic reporters and real listeners.
Trading information and making the commute safer and faster for everyone.
Every 10 minutes on the nines, we have you covered on KSL News Radio.
Let me tell you about Mountain Home Services. Now, Mountain Home Services installed my furnace years ago, had done the tune-ups throughout the years, and it done an amazing job with that for my family. Well, they've joined forces with Master Electrical Service as well, so you're going to get a lot of expertise in a lot of different areas.
This is so awesome because you can get your electrical needs taken care of, like you need a new EV charger or you need some new outlets or old outlets replaced. And then they've teamed up with Mountain Home Services. They can also help you with your HVAC, your heating and air, your plumbing.
And all that comes with the upfront pricing guarantee. I think so many of us have been bitten by the bid process where a contractor will come in, give you a bid, and then by the time the work is done, the invoice is not the same as the bid. Well, with Mountain Home Services, that upfront pricing guarantee guarantees that you're going to know what you're going to pay for.
And you, of course, always get that 100% satisfaction guarantee as well.
Yeah, check them out at mountainhomeutah.com. That's mountainhomeutah.com.
Or you can call them, 801-543-2222. Again, 801-543-2222.
This is Derek Overstreet of the New Millennium Group and host of Stop Working and Start Living Radio. If you're close to or in retirement and you don't have a tax plan, call us right now. 888-999-6370. That's 888-999-6370. Listen, our country's been spending like never before, and the tax bill is coming soon. If you need an income tax strategy and a financial plan that will get you through the rest of your life, give my team a call, 888-999-6370. That's 888-999-6370. If you want an investment plan that allows you to keep more of your gains and pay less taxes, give us a call, 888-999-6370. My team specializes in the type of plan that will get you retired 3 to 5 years sooner than you thought possible. So, get a no-cost tax analysis by calling 888-999-6370. That's 999-6370. My team is standing by now.
We just want to have enough money for retirement.
And travel to visit our grandchildren.
I understand. That's why at Fisher Investments, we start by getting to know each other so I can learn about your family, lifestyle, goals, and needs, allowing us to tailor your portfolio.
What about commission-based products?
We don't sell those. We're a fiduciary, obligated to act in your best interest.
So how do your management fees work?
We have a simple management fee based on the value of your portfolio, so we do better when you do better.
We appreciate that kind of transparency.
We also check in with you regularly to keep you up to date on the markets and your portfolio.
What other services do you offer?
As a client, you have access to resources on investing, financial planning, estate planning, Social Security, Medicare, and more.
Wow, it sounds like Fisher Investments has everything we need.
At Fisher Investments, we're clearly different. Learn more at FisherInvestments.com.
Investing in securities involves the risk of loss.
Traffic and weather together brought to you by Sinclair's Dino Pay app. Save up to 20 cents per gallon. And here's Heather Kelly.
Well, the good news is all of our earlier accidents have cleared. We had one in Lehigh, one on the east side belt, and one southbound I-15 right in downtown Salt Lake. All those are gone, but you still have residual delays northbound I-15 coming over the point of the mountain from Utah County all the way up to 53rd South in Murray. Hopefully those will be gone in the next 10 or 15 minutes. And no problems right now if you're on the east or west side belt routes, but a little bit of slowing remains on the 201 freeway through the road construction zone. The BYU Department of Dance presents Christmas Around the World. Over 160 dancers and musicians will take you across the globe this Christmas, December 6th and 7th at the Marriott Center. Tickets at byuonstage.com. Heather Kelly in the KSL Traffic Center.
It'll be sunny today and a little warmer, up to 52 for a high 61 on Friday. And right now it's 39 degrees. I'm Amanda Dixon from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Dave and Dujanovic, your morning companions for talk, analysis, and key perspectives on Utah's biggest stories on KSL News Radio.
We're going to get a live update on this from ABC News in just a moment. Mike Dubusky standing by for us, Dave. But I saw this story, and immediately I thought of you and your EV. Reuters, I caught this on Reuters this morning. Ford is expected to cut 14% of European jobs. It's Ford Motor Company. Partially blaming the EV shift in interest in EVs. It seems to be falling fast. What are your thoughts on that as an EV owner?
I think this is the danger of moving too fast because I wasn't an early adopter. I wasn't the first guy to get a Tesla. I waited a while to see if I wanted to get an EV. And eventually I did, but it works for me because my job and the way I use my EV is so boring, Debbie. It's the same thing every single day. I drive to work, I plug it in at the station, I recharge it, I drive it home. That's about the extent of my usage.
So you're not road tripping with it.
Exactly. I'm not going off and driving and Sunday drives in it. It's very simple. So when you narrow the scope of how you use it, and it only works in this very specific Dave Noriega world, then it's not flexible enough for your everyday life. So as a second car, as a third car, then maybe it works in families, but you need it to work as a first car and an only car. And we don't have the infrastructure around this country. I can't just go in and I can find a million gas stations anywhere. I don't even need to know where one is. I just know I'm going to run into one. I have to have an app, and I have to be able to read it like a cartographer to be able to figure out where to plug my vehicle in.
Could you imagine me? If you can't figure it out and you need some sort of higher ed degree to figure out where the next EV charging station is, I would be.
I need NASA to guide me in. You're like, you're going to be at 37 degrees and 27. Come on, man. Let me just find an EV charging station.
You just find me on the side of the road walking. So, Mike Dubusky, so interested to hear your take on this as well. And I'm just looking at the numbers out of Germany, and it shows that they've seen a major, just for example, the first few months of this year, the first 9 months of this year, sales over there were down almost 30%. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, that's right, guys. And Europe kind of mirrors what we're seeing here in the United States. I'm looking at some data here from the European Union, which finds that electric vehicle adoption, or rather the share of electric vehicles in the larger car market for the European Union, is leveling off. It was growing between the years of 2019, 2020 into 2021, but after that you see this sort of slowing in adoption. Now, it's important to note that electric vehicle adoption isn't falling off a cliff. It's not going down. Electric vehicles, both in Europe and in the United States, now account for a larger share of the market than they ever have before. However, the pace of that adoption does seem to be slowing down. And you talk to experts in this field, guys, and they'll tell you that these are early adopters giving way to mainstream consumers. When electric vehicles, practical, exciting electric vehicles, first hit the market, starting around 2018, 2019, a lot of the people who are techie, who are, have the sort of disposable income to play around with these new cars, bought in, right? That's why we saw this explosion of growth around that time. Now, automakers are faced with the proposition of selling these to more mainstream consumers, people who take road trips, as you guys were talking about, who have families, who, have strict schedules where they might not have the time to spend, seeking out electric vehicle charging stations or dealing with confusing apps or charging infrastructure or something like that. And that has proved to be slightly challenging to them. And I think that's exactly why you're seeing companies like Ford Europe kind of rejigger their electric vehicle strategy.
We're speaking with Mike Dubusky, ABC News technology reporter. And Mike, how much of this is automakers responding to the most recent election? The reason I ask that is I think the Biden administration obviously had a heavy push into electric vehicles. They had this mandate, the hope of all new vehicles being sold being zero emission by 2030. They ended up having to pedal on that a little bit. But how much of this is the shift from the Biden administration and the push for EV to Trump?
It's a great question. And as you referenced there, the Biden administration had already sort of softened its EV targets. This happened earlier this year. They were pretty ambitious when they were first laid out. Again, no new electric or no new vehicles could be sold that were gas powered by 2035, for much of the country. Exceptions in there, of course, and that doesn't necessarily mean electric, but even still, like, very ambitious targets that were then sort of reeled back. They necessarily, they dealt with things like where the battery is manufactured or where the car is assembled and that sort of thing. With regard to the incoming Trump administration, it's hard to say exactly, how automakers are going to react to this because we just don't know what the plans are with regard to electric vehicles and the incoming Trump administration. I've talked to experts who say, it's possible that they completely eliminate the federal EV tax credit of, $7,500, or depending, on some other things, it could be slightly lower than that. That could be a rollback. However, you look at something like former President Trump's close relationship with Elon Musk, the owner of the largest electric vehicle company in the world, and that would hurt his business. So there's some nuance here that I think is interesting to look at. And aside from the fact that any company is going to react to a different administration in the United States, I think you can look at that softening of the EV targets by the Biden administration as a signal of a larger trend here, right? Former President Trump is not anti-electric vehicle. He's kind of anti-electric vehicle mandates, or at least that's what he says. So there's a way to look at this as just a sort of continuation of a trend that was already happening under the Biden administration.
Mike Dubusky, thank you so much for joining us, ABC technology reporter.
What do you think about this idea of rolling back the incentives, Dave?
Yeah, that it would be very, very interesting. In fact, Mike brought up Elon Musk, and Elon Musk has actually talked about incentives in the past. He's like, get rid of them, get rid of the incentives, which is a little bit of a surprise coming from the creator of Tesla. But it played a huge role in me purchasing my electric vehicle.
That's what I was wondering.
Yeah, it played. I wouldn't have done it without the incentives. In fact, he talked about the $7,500 tax credit on new EVs. Well, there's a $4,000 tax credit on used EVs. So I purchased my electric vehicle for $17,000. It was 4 or 5 years old. I bought it for $17,000, and I'm like, well, but with a $4,000 tax credit, then that's only a $13,000 vehicle, and that's why we chose to make that decision, because I was saving with the tax credit more money, basically the gas money savings paid for the vehicle.
Let's take calls. I'm curious if our listeners feel like the EV honeymoon is over. Have you taken the idea of buying an electric vehicle off the kitchen table? 801-575-TALK, 801-575-TALK. Your live phone calls. Do you still love the idea of an EV, or the honeymoon is over?
Dave and Dujanovic.
Dave and Debbie go out of their way to make sure you hear all sides of a story.
They're working the phones to get several viewpoints on for you.
Hi, it's Tim and Amanda. We get you the full story, too.
We have you covered on KSL News Radio.
One thing I love about soft water is, number one, how easy it was to have it installed. Connecticut of Utah came out to our house when we decided to make that change. They came out, and they were in a matter of hours in and out of the house. They did all the plumbing. It was so efficient. It was zero disruption to our life. They just came in, they installed it, and then within a day or two, because you got to cycle out all that hard water from the water heater, the soft water started coming into the house, and we could tell the difference when we took our shower. Like, you could feel the difference, and we have loved having soft water in our house. Utah has some of the hardest water in the entire country. You'll feel it when you take a shower, in your laundry, trying to clean your shower, all those hard water stains. You almost need a jackhammer to get it all clean. So we've loved our soft water from Connecticut. Go ahead and reach out to them. Have them come to your house. They can walk you through the entire thing and how soft water makes a difference. 801-576-8600. That's 801-576-8600. They're an authorized Connecticut dealer. Or you can check them out online and learn more about soft water by going to softwaterutah.com.
Visit the contest page on KSLNewsRadio.com. This week, win tickets to Ballet West, The Nutcracker, December 6th through the 28th at the Capitol Theater. Celebrate the 80th anniversary of America's first Nutcracker with Ballet West. Or win tickets to Michael McLean's The Forgotten Carols. Experience a family Christmas tradition with The Forgotten Carols December 18th through the 21st at Cottonwood High. Text the word contest to 57500 or go to KSLNewsRadio.com/contests.
Healthcare with human kindness is here. It's at Common Spirit Health. Hospitals, clinics, and caregivers all connected to advance healthcare in Colorado, Kansas, and Utah. Together, we have a common purpose, partnering with you in health and healing using powerful medicine, powerful technology, and the greatest power of all, human kindness. You'll know it when you see it, because human kindness is in every care site and in every caregiver. Common Spirit Health. Hello, human kindness.
AMCO presents Bet You Didn't Know.
Bet you didn't know that your car's transmission is made up of 800 pieces. Also, bet you didn't know that AMCO's fixed over 40 million transmissions and that AMCO offers a nationwide warranty.
Check out AMCO's multiple financing options so you can fix it fast and pay it off slow.
That's AMCO, AA, MCO.
Teens can get up to $200 with a Teen Learn and Earn account. Plus, continue earning rewards as they master the essentials of finance. More at cypresscu.com/teen.
If you're trying to decide which gutter protection to put on your home, don't just ask how they'll handle leaves. Ask how they'll handle ice. Tim Jr. here from RGS Exteriors, and that's right, ice. See, plenty of gutter guards are good at keeping out leaves, but most are made with flimsy materials that can bend, buckle, and break under the weight of too much ice. Kind of a big problem in an icy state like Utah, right? At RGS Exteriors, our exclusive gutter protection systems are built Utah tough. They're made with premium strength materials that hold up to 1,200 pounds of ice per square foot. Simply put, they're not going to budge. Our gutter guards are also certified to handle hurricane-level winds and rain. Mother Nature can't damage them. Guaranteed. Utah Tough Products. That's the RGS way. For a free estimate, call 801-280-3110 or visit rgsexteriors.com. That's rgsexteriors.com or 801-280-3110.
The Good Feed Store. The life you love starts here.
Paid for by government. Now is the time to fill your vault with Morgan Silver Bars. Grab your piece of America's silver legacy with this special offer. These spectacular shining silver bars featuring a crisp image of the iconic Morgan Silver Dollar, a legendary coin that has captivated collectors for generations. Americans treasure owning silver bars and coins, putting them away for themselves and their loved ones. Call now to secure 1-ounce silver bars minted in 99.9% pure silver and made in the USA. You'll be glad you did. Hurry, don't miss out on this special deal. Save $10 per silver bar. The more you buy, the more you save. Limit of 25 bars per customer. Call to learn more. Plus, with qualifying orders, you'll receive a free Morgan Silver Dollar. That's a $59.95 value and free shipping. Call 1-800-222-3967 now to secure your 1-ounce Morgan Silver Dollar bars. That's 1-800-222-3967.
With the 3 things you need to know this hour, I'm Amanda Dixon. First, Abravanel Hall has officially been recognized as a historic building. It opens up possible tax incentives that could lower renovation costs. Second, a new airline service is partnering with Delta to offer non-stop flights from Salt Lake to Edmonton, Canada. And third, Utah has joined 17 other states in a lawsuit against the SEC, arguing the state should be the ones regulating cryptocurrency. Right now in downtown Salt Lake City, it's 39 degrees. Back to David Dujanovic on KSL News Radio.
Just got in hand a preliminary report on a natural gas leak and explosion that happened several weeks ago at a home in South Jordan. The report, Dave, do you see it on the NTSB's Twitter feed there?
Yeah, they've released it on NTSB Newsroom. It talks about their preliminary report that has just been issued in this South Jordan explosion.
This, of course, has garnered just a ton of media attention and also community attention over the death of a 15-year-old Bingham High student who was killed in this explosion when it happened. I need to be reminded of the date. It was October 6th, and it seemed to me it was like right after school had let out, although we don't know the particulars of that, but school let out at when I checked the bell schedule, it seemed like about 2:30 in the 2:25ish in the afternoon that day. Again, we don't know the particulars of how this young man got caught up in this situation, but the NTSB has been looking into it. Dave and I have been poring over the preliminary report, which is about a page long. And so let's, Dave, start walking our listeners through the details of what they've found so far.
Okay, there's a few things. Number one, you're right. The explosion happens at 3:09 p.m. Enbridge Gas, Utah, arrives on the scene in less than 45 minutes. So at 3:45 p.m., so less than 45 minutes later, it looks like 34 minutes later, they arrive on scene, and they were trying to find and isolate this leak. They don't find and isolate the leak until just after noon the next day. So once they find and isolate that leak, that's when they were able to I guess, protect it and shut it off completely.
So then they find this a natural gas main that has apparently was installed in the 1970s, in 1976. And they measure the pressure, and they said it's below the legal maximum allowable operating pressure. Enbridge detected subsurface gas between the main, I guess that's the gas main, and 2 neighboring residents, including the home that was caught up in the explosion and the home immediately to the north.
So I'm looking at the photo right now, and they've done a great job of drawing it out. So this home that was destroyed, that exploded, it was absolutely leveled. It was completely destroyed. if you have the front of the house, then in the rear of the house, behind that there is 3200 West. So many of us know 3200 West. So the location of the leak was found basically in the middle of the road of 3200 West, directly behind one of the neighbors. Not the home that exploded. It was directly behind one of the neighbors' properties. That's where they found the location of the leak. It was under 3200 West, but the pipes obviously were being tied in and going directly to all these homes. But where they found that leak was under the road.
It also, this release, again, Dave and I walking through a preliminary report that was released just moments ago by the National Transportation Safety Board, which is the lead agency on that explosion in South Jordan that killed a 15-year-old Bingham High student on November 6th. And we're getting just preliminary information here. It goes on to say that the gas company, Dave, also detected gas in the atmosphere of the neighboring home after the accident. I read something further in this, and I'm looking for it now through the fine print here.
As you're looking,
Yeah,
can I just jump in? One of the things that stood out to me as we were talking about this subsurface gas, so the gas that is compiling underneath. It's about a 4-inch pipe, the gas main. That's how they described it, a 4-inch diameter gas main. And they found it reaching about 250 feet from the leak. Now, that's nearly a football field worth of gas that they are finding that is building up underneath the ground.
Now, it was last week that we spoke with South Jordan City about this on the air, and they were calling for, folks in the area, of course, anywhere you live, make sure you're, paying attention to any sort of smell of gas in your home.
We always encourage people, if you smell gas in your home, which is that sulfur smell, or rotten eggs, or however people say it, they add that smell to it so people know that there's gas coming into their homes. You can call your non-emergency dispatch, or if it smells very strong, you can call the emergency number.
Now, this NTSB report says that the 5 residents reported smelling gas before the explosion. Let me just read that.
No. That
none of the 5 residents. Thank you.
Yeah.
None of the 5 residents reported smelling gas before the explosion, and there was not a natural gas alarm in the accident home.
And that was another thing that South Jordan City was calling on residents to consider. And again, this applies to probably our residents all over the state. Consider purchasing a natural gas detector. We were a little uncertain when we were talking about this last week, like what brand. And I just went on to Amazon and bought one for my home. I live in South Jordan. I'm, a mile or two away from where this home had exploded. It was not something that I realized was actually on the market, was a natural gas detector. I plugged it in. It seems to be working. However, I do recognize that, I guess it would have to detect a leak for the alarm to actually sound, but it's like a 4-in-1 kind of detector, Dave. So that is what South Jordan City has been encouraging residents to do, but there's still a lot of information that has yet to be released, or evidence that needs to be collected by the NTSB. And they said the investigation is going to be ongoing. They're going to continue to, of course, look into this further. But at this point, that's what we know.
Again, the most devastating part of this is the loss of life. A 15-year-old that died in this explosion was the only person that was injured in this. And as you're looking at the video, and we saw video shortly after when there was still burning and smoldering from Chopper 5, you could just see the complete and utter devastation. There's no way anyone could possibly survive that. A little bit of a surprise to me was that there wasn't more damage to the surrounding homes. It does look like the explosion was largely limited to that lot. And although there is some damage to the other homes, and we even saw a Ring doorbell when this first happened, where debris was raining down around the neighborhood after the explosion. It looked largely that these other homes, neighboring homes, were largely unaffected.
KSL FM Midvale.
KSL Salt Lake City.
From the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios, this is KSL News Radio.
Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
It's 10 o'clock at KSL News Radio. I'm Dan Bomas. KSL's top story this hour. We have breaking news. An underground gas leak was found as part of the investigation of a home explosion that killed a 15-year-old boy in South Jordan on November 6th. A preliminary report from the National Transportation Safety Board says the leak was found by Enbridge Gas the day after the explosion. It also found subsurface gas between the home that was destroyed and another next door. No one living in the home reported smelling gas before the explosion. A new legislative audit is scrutinizing Utah's public colleges and universities for some of their programs. How useful they actually are could be another sign of pending budget cuts from the legislature. KSL News Radio's Adam Small has details.
This audit calls out Utah's 8 public higher ed institutions for not cutting programs that don't lead to graduation, high-paying jobs, or jobs that support what Utah's workforce needs. And according to the Salt Lake Tribune, it also urges schools to start tracking the success rates of their programs and make decisions on them based on how they stack up.
And just days before the audit, Utah's House Speaker was already pushing to cut the amount of money the state gives to its public colleges and universities. Our top national story this hour from ABC News. Comcast says it will be spinning off most of its cable networks. USA Network, CNBC, and MSNBC will now be operating under another corporate name, SpinCo. Comcast CEO says that will put all of NBC Universal on a new growth trajectory. Your money at this moment, the Dow Jones average down but just barely on the day. The NASDAQ is down 66 points right now. And our KSL weather. We've got sunshine today, and it looks like that'll stick around for a while. KSL News Time, 10:01.
We hope you have the right app on your phone for news. You probably have dozens.
But the KSL News Radio app, well, it makes our live stream super easy.
Plus, our talk shows are right there as podcast for your workday.
That's the app for KSL News Radio.
Are you looking to save on internet and mobile this holiday season? Well, good news. Xfinity's having a Black Friday sale. They have you covered with these great deals. Learn how to get your choice of 5G phone on Xfinity Plus. You can also get fast, reliable Xfinity internet and a line of Xfinity Mobile Unlimited for a great low price. So don't wait. Bring home a new 5G phone and get Wi-Fi speeds up to 1 gig on Xfinity Mobile. That's a big deal. Or should I say gig deal? Now through December 3rd, ask how to get your choice of a free 5G phone with an unlimited Plus line. Plus, get Xfinity Gigabit Internet with free Wi-Fi equipment for only $25 a month for 12 months. No annual contract when you add unlimited mobile. Go to Xfinity.com/Black Friday sale to learn more. Restrictions apply. Taxes and fees extra after promo. Regular rates apply. Gig Wi-Fi requires Xfinity Gateway. Xfinity Mobile requires Xfinity Internet. Gig speeds available via hotspots to Xfinity Mobile customers only. Reduced speeds after use of monthly data included with your data option. Actual internet speeds and data thresholds may vary.
If you're living with dry age-related macular degeneration or dry AMD, you may be at risk for developing geographic atrophy or GA. GA can be unpredictable and progress rapidly, leading to irreversible vision loss. Now there's something you can do to
slow it down and get it going slower.
Izervay is proven to slow GA progression.
Izervay gets GA going slower.
Izervay or avacincaptad pagel is a prescription eye injection used to treat GA. Don't take it if you have an infection or active swelling in or around your eye. Izervay can cause eye infection, retinal detachment, or increased risk of wet AMD. Izervay may temporarily increase eye pressure. Your vision may be impaired after an eye injection or exam. Don't delay. Ask your doctor about Izervay today.
Izervay gets GA going slower.
Visit Izervay.com. That's IZERVAY.com.
Traffic and weather together brought to you by Sinclair's DinoPay app. Save up to 20 cents per gallon. And here's Heather Kelly.
We still have a little bit of slowing northbound I-15 as you come up from 90th South in Sandy up to about 53rd South in Murray. No accidents there. It's just the residual delays from a bunch of other crashes that happened during morning drive. Things are moving much better now on the east side belt as well as southbound I-15 between Ogden and Salt Lake. That's under a 30-minute commute. You will see your normal delays on Bangerter Highway through the construction zones in West Jordan and approaching the 201 freeway. Advanced Window Products offer Graber window coverings. High-end quality with best warranty. Save 30% off when you mention KSL. AdvancedWindows.com. Heather Kelly in the KSL Traffic Center.
And it looks like we've got sunny skies, partly cloudy skies, actually, for the next couple of days, with a high of 52 today, up to 61 on Friday. And right now, we're looking at 41 degrees with partly cloudy skies. I'm Dan Bomas from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Dave and Dujanovic, your morning companions for talk, analysis, and key perspectives on Utah's biggest stories on KSL News Radio.
We're going to focus right now on President-elect Donald Trump's hush money case. Of course, he went to trial, and now the district attorney in New York is kind of trying to figure out what will happen from here. NBC News is reporting that Trump's lawyers are demanding the judge immediately throw out the case, Dave.
It will be interesting to see. It's been a little bit difficult to keep track of how many cases were being brought against President Trump. There was the hush money case. It's the find me 14,911 votes down in Georgia, January 6th. But this is the only one that went to trial and where he was found guilty. KSL legal analyst Greg Skordas is joining us right now. And it seemed like even after the sentencing had been pushed back and pushed back and pushed back, walk us through why the sentencing didn't happen closely after the verdict.
I think, Dave, it's because the judge recognized that it would be unfair to sentence an individual during a campaign. So Trump was certainly convicted by the jury of these 34 counts of falsifying business records. It's been several months, and usually you would have a sentencing within a month or two of a conviction. But the judge postponed it until after the election, and I think for sort of two reasons. One, if Trump had lost the election, we would be having a sentencing. We'd be scheduling a sentencing right now. But having won, it raises a whole bunch of other questions, which is, A, does he have immunity because some of the acts that he was convicted of may have occurred while he was president? Of course, many of them occurred beforehand. And B, can you do anything to a sitting president? And so they're really trying to decide, do you just postpone the sentencing until after he's not president anymore, or you dismiss the case because some of the acts occurred while he was president and had some level of immunity?
Yeah, I'm just looking into this court filing by the Manhattan District Attorney, Greg, and it does appear to be this balance to some degree, but he didn't feel that Trump's, Oval Office, returning to the Oval Office was grounds for dropping the case that had already been tried, but also that there needs to be some sort of, constitutional competing constitutional interests need to be balanced as well. But he's saying, the Manhattan District Attorney is saying, just because he's going back to the Oval Office isn't grounds for this case to be dismissed because he already went to trial.
That's right. That's right. The problem, though, Debbie, is that some of the evidence that came out during that trial involved conduct that Trump did after he was president. And if you recall, he was paying his former lawyer, Michael Cohen, reimbursing him $130,000 for hush money payments that were made to this adult film star. Some of those occurred after he was president, and the Supreme Court has issued an opinion in the meantime that said you can't be prosecuted for acts that occurred while you were president. You've got to give a president some level of immunity. So what does that do to the conviction? Does it throw out some of the counts? Does it throw out all of them because the jury heard that? I mean, that's a separate issue altogether. But in the meantime, he does stand convicted. And what do we do about that when there's a sentencing set? I don't think there's going to be a sentencing until after he serves his 4 years. Then we'll see what happens with the case.
Greg, remind me, even in that Supreme Court ruling, weren't there some caveats that the Supreme Court had spelled out that although the president would have a large immunity claim in many cases, if it were deemed to be personal or outside of the duties of the president, then there would be no immunity.
Right. And what they talked about, you said it very well, is official acts that occurred while he was acting as president. So they have to be official acts. I mean, driving drunk, for example, would certainly not be an official act of a president. But issuing payments or doing something like that could be if it's decided that that's an official act as the president. So it remains to be seen whether the conduct can be construed as an official act by the president or whether it's just something that occurred as a citizen to sort of buy off this adult film star.
Greg, in all your years as a prosecutor here in Salt Lake County and then now as a defense attorney, are there cases out there that won't specifically mirror this, but where somebody gets convicted and the sentencing never happens?
Oh, this is incredibly rare, Debbie. And no, I mean, in the 42 years I've practiced, I've never seen something quite like this. But I mean, when you're dealing with the President of the United States,
right.
Convictions, I mean, there's so many things about Trump and about the convictions and about the Justice Department that we have never seen before. We'll now have an understanding of the law. And going forward, if anything like this happens again, I think we'll have a better roadmap on how judges are supposed to proceed.
President Trump is 78 years old right now. Say this is delayed through his term until he's 82. Does any of that play into the sentencing?
It could. I mean, first of all, I know he's convicted of 34 felonies, and you'd expect him to do some time. He was recalcitrant during the trial. He was rude to the judge's staff. That was a problem. But, people don't go to prison for property crimes, people who have no prior criminal conviction. So, yeah, and based on his age, it would be highly unlikely that he'll serve prison, even if he was sentenced today.
And at this point, does the defense have much say, I mean, other than obviously, filing motions or making requests of the district attorney, do they have much say in terms of a negotiation over a sentencing? Like, I'm just thinking about all the times that, I've gone to sentencing. I mean, you certainly sat through hundreds and hundreds of them where, the recommendation is, jail time or prison time, but they get probation or something like that. Does the defense, does President-elect Trump's defense have any say in that at this point, Greg?
Oh, a tremendous amount. But that will occur if there is a sentencing. So
right.
The first question is, do we even have a sentencing? But once we get there, yes, they'll be arguing that as a first-time offender, no matter what, we don't typically put those kind of people in jail or prison for a first-time property offense. So, yeah, they'll argue that he should get probation no matter what. But right now they're saying he shouldn't even have to suffer the consequences because he was president at the time and the case should just be dismissed.
And there are no statute of limitations when it comes after the guilty verdict has come down, right?
Right, because the case was tried within the statute of limitations period. And so that has been addressed. He was tried within the statute of limitations, so he can't argue that. I mean, there's sort of a speedy trial or a speedy disposition, but he's in fact the one that's asking for the continuance, so he can't really complain about the delay that way either because he's the one that benefits from the delay in the sentencing, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Greg, thank you so much for joining us, KSL legal analyst Greg Skordas, as always. Excellent.
Yeah, another case we'll continue to track. Another story we'll continue to track the developments on, Dave.
Yeah, and it will be interesting to see what happens with some of the other, there were 3 other cases, some federal cases, some state cases that were being pursued against President Trump. Again, the January 6th federal cases, again, with him taking office, the Department of Justice.
Top secret documents case.
Top secret documents down in Florida. So it will be interesting to see how these things play out.
Yeah. Straight ahead. avoiding the impulse buy as you're heading into the holidays. If your goal is to stop adding to your debt or get out of debt, there's one big thing you need to know about that's driving you to impulse buy. And I'll tell you what that is next.
Dave and Dujanovic.
Current events can have a lot of moving parts. Our job is to make it easy to keep up.
You're part of a bigger world, so spend 15 or 20 minutes here and be part of it.
Join us weekday mornings between 5 and 9 on KSL News Radio.
I let go of about 120 pounds. Mobility's back. When people see me, they're just shocked. You know, they always ask you, like, what'd you do? And I tell them, I came to soda. It's accountability. These guys, I don't think I would have done it on my own if I didn't have their support.
Find the proof at sodaweightloss.com with thousands of before and after pictures from real people who found lasting success with Soda Weight Loss.
I am down 50 pounds in 11 weeks, and this program works. All you have to do is do what they ask you to do. The pounds melt off. It's amazing, and I feel great.
Imagine getting on the scale every week and watching the pounds melt off, showing off your new look for the holidays. There's a reason Soda Weight Loss is the chosen weight loss program of the Dallas Cowboys organization and fans. Right now, get Soda's biggest savings of the year. Connect with a nutritionist today at sodaweightloss.com and ask about our holiday special. That's SOTA weightloss.com. Soda is, say it with me, state of the art.
BYU's season comes down to sudden death. Now it's a one-game season. Beat Arizona State for a path to the championship game.
Moa running hard, 15 and 12-yard line for Sione Moa.
This Saturday, it's do or die. BYU, Arizona State. KSL special extended pregame starts Saturday at 11, and kickoff is at 1:30 on Utah's legacy home of the Cougars. KSL News Radio.
We have been talking so much about the election recently. Have you wondered how the election's going to impact the real estate market? Russell Fawcett joins us right now, owner of this Stern team of Omada Real Estate. Russell, how does the election affect the real estate market?
Yeah, so the main thing with the election that we see is people tend to finally make a decision. A lot of people put off whether it's buying, whether it's selling, because there's uncertainty in the market. And so a lot of people exit or they're sitting in the sidelines. And so post-election, typically what we see is based off of, what people believe. They either decide, okay, I'm completely out, or, yeah, I'm going to go ahead and move forward with my buy or sell.
So what would you tell a seller who's waiting until after the holidays to sell, Russell?
Yeah, so a lot of it depends on what they are looking for, kind of their timing. But one of the advantages of actually selling during the holiday season is your home looks amazing. Like, you can't stage a home better than with holiday decorations.
So true.
And then the other thing is the buyers that are typically shopping during the holiday season as well. Two things: they're serious. They're not out just, hey, maybe this will work. They're actually trying to get into a home. And if you're looking for a quick sell, a lot of them want to get in before, Christmas, Thanksgiving, and so they're looking for a quicker closing as well.
Motivated, for sure. If you're looking at that, I hadn't really thought about that. What a great description. Yeah, when you're walking through the homes and you see the beautiful lights and everything's decorated so wonderfully, yeah, you can't stage anything better than that. Russell, thanks. If you don't mind sticking around, we want to continue this conversation. But if you want a great resource, go ahead and visit sternteam.com to find out more. If you want to learn about your home's true value in just 30 seconds, go to thesternteam.com.
Any Hour Services can help you make sure your furnace keeps you warm this winter. Whether you need a tune-up, a repair, or a second opinion about replacing it, call Any Hour Services or visit anyhourservices.com.
Progressive knows finding your new home was a dream come true. You wanted it close to town, with a picture window overlooking a yard. And you found it. Now, when you sit down to dinner, you've got front row seats too. Your neighbor's daily pickleball game. Progressive can't save you from your noisy neighbors, but we can save you money when you bundle your home and auto with us. Get a quote at Progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company, affiliates, and other insurers not available in all states.
Everywhere you look, things are getting more expensive. So at Consumer Cellular, we're lowering the price for those 50 and up. Now you can get unlimited talk, text, and data for $30 a line when you buy two. That's just $60 a month for 2 unlimited lines. So if you're 50 and up, make the switch and save. Come on, you've earned this. Call 1-888-FREEDOM or visit consumercellular.com today. Requires 2 lines of service, age validation, and credit approval, subject to system and area limits, taxes, and other fees apply.
Dave and Dujanovic.
What our listeners need to know is what's going on behind the scenes. We hold weekly meetings on how to do our jobs as talk show hosts, as journalists, better than we did them yesterday.
There's some very conservative voices. There's some very liberal voices. But there is space for both. And we're not at each other's throats. We're not yelling at each other. We're having a discussion.
Listen for Dave and Dujanovic 9 to noon on KSL News Radio.
With the 3 things you need to know this hour, I'm Dan Bomas. First, a preliminary investigation of the fatal natural gas explosion at a home in West Jordan found gas had been leaking into the ground from a gas main in the neighborhood. Second, Utah legislators are looking at a new audit of Utah's public colleges, possibly as it targets them for funding cuts. And third, Comcast spinning off most of its cable networks under a new corporate name, SpinCo. 41 degrees, partly cloudy in Salt Lake City. And back to Dave and Dujanovic on KSL News Radio.
Dave and Dujanovic.
I just want to bring you up to speed real quickly on what we're working on regarding that natural gas explosion in South Jordan that you heard Dan reporting on. Dave and I talking about it in depth about 30 minutes ago. The NTSB has released a preliminary report. And Dan mentioned this during his newscast just moments ago about, what the NTSB has found so far, and that the gas main that out front was installed in 1976. It was operating below the legal maximum allowable operated pressure, and that after the explosion that killed a 15-year-old boy, the Bingham High School student, at his home, Enbridge, the gas company, had detected subsurface gas between the main and 2 neighboring residences, Dave.
I'm looking at where the location of the leak was found, and it was basically in the road of 3200 West. Now, the location of the leak basically is smack dab in the middle of the road, and that's where they found it. And it had traveled. They found the subsurface gas pocket, so to speak, 250 feet. That's almost a football field.
This preliminary National Transportation Safety Board report, which is, by the way, posted on their X feed. So if you want to go read this for yourself, head over to that social media platform. It may be posted on their website as well. However, they're also citing, Dave, in this report that preliminary information indicates that none of the 5 residents reported smelling gas before the explosion, and there was not a natural gas alarm in the accident home.
They've also listed who the NTSB had worked with, various parties here in Utah, so the Department of Public Safety, the Office of the State of the Fire Marshal, the Utah Department of Commerce. We're reaching out to these folks to see if we can get a comment from them, so we're actively efforting those interviews.
Yeah, I have a list from our producer. She just sent me. Caitlin says she's put a request into the city of South Jordan, also the gas company, and the Utah Division of Emergency Management. We're working to get them on the line to get their reaction and perhaps even get further information on the latest developments in this case.
In part, Debbie, because I think a lot of us are asking and wondering if we can't smell the natural gas. And in this report, it talks about 5 residents. None of them were able to smell that natural gas. What do they do to monitor this, to prepare and to test for these kind of things? And how often are these tests being done in our neighborhoods?
Right on the money. Special coverage with Dave and Dujanovic.
Let's pivot to another report talking about our money. Dave and I have been spending a lot of time this week talking about saving money and how to get out of debt. It's all part of our 2025 goals, right? Well, then I read this report that 54% of U.S. adults have made at least one impulse purchase. And they're looking at last holiday season. This is a bank rate report. 54% of adults in this country, Dave, cannot stop themselves walking into a store or making an impulse buy online.
I'm not a terrible impulse buyer, but I've been able to figure out what triggers me, what gets me. And it's when I have a really cool experience and emotions are hot, or, I'm excited about something. That's when I will impulse buy something. For example, I go to my first hockey game. The first Utah Hockey Club match, I had great seats. It was an incredible atmosphere, even though we got blown out. I go out and I spend a couple $100 on hockey gear. I've got like 4 hats, and I've got jerseys, and I got all sorts of stuff. I was so excited about it. That's where my impulse buy comes from. Emotion.
Yeah, so there are some generational differences. 18 to 27-year-olds say 70% said they made impulse purchases. 44% said they were for themselves, kind of like you. Gen X, you're a Gen Xer, right?
Yep.
44 to 59-year-old. You're 49. You just turned 49. Happy birthday again.
Thank you.
Half made impulse purchases, and this is you. 24% say they bought for themselves.
Yeah, that's where my impulse buy is. It's not for others. It's for me. Super selfish.
Millennials aren't much better. 28 to 43-year-olds, 65% saying they've made impulse buys, 39% for themselves. It really is the baby boomers, the 60 to 78-year-olds who are the most, disciplined. Maybe that's a good word. 41% making impulse purchases, only 12% for themselves. So they're not only disciplined, they're givers. Their impulse buys are giving them away. But I really do want to dig into this, what is influencing us to make an impulse buy. It is not only our lack of discipline in the moment, but it is also the influence of social media. And this report from Bankrate says that 13% are influenced by brand or advertising posts on social media. That's not surprising to me. It comes up in my feed. I'm like, I didn't need that, and now I do. So you click on the link, it takes you over to a website, and you make a purchase you weren't planning on making. But here's the deal that really stuck out to me. It's the Gen Zers, the 18 to 27-year-olds. I'm not going to say they're the ones that probably are just getting started out in their career field, might not be making top dollar. But they are most influenced by social media. 36% of Gen Zers say, you know what, I made an impulse buy because I saw it either from an influencer demonstrating it on their feed, or they saw an advertisement for it.
Do you ever get sucked into the impulse buy because it's retail therapy? You had a rough day, you're like, I want to feel better by buying something.
I'd be broke if I did that, Dave. If I based my buys on my rough days, I'd be flat broke. I've been pretty good about it. One of the tricks that I use is I just put it in the cart and I let it rot.
Sit on it.
Yeah, if you're feeling that urge, you're trying to come up with the excuses that'll validate your impulse buy, just put it in the cart, sit on it. I forget about it so often by the time I make it 5 steps away from when I put my phone down and walked away. But really, I really appreciate what some of our listeners this week have been telling us about how they've stayed out of debt. In fact, we talked about debt-free living yesterday on the show with a ton of jealousy for all you who are doing it. And there are a lot of people who are living debt-free. That study we talked about yesterday, it's 23% of Americans.
Yeah. Again, still can't believe so many of you unicorns exist.
Yeah, but I think it's important to bring that up here because when we took calls from our listeners about their debt-free lifestyle and how they've achieved it, it is through discipline. I think about Wade, who called in. He listens to us in Colorado, saying he got a hard lesson handed to him early in life. It was his own doing. In some regards, it was a bankruptcy.
22 years ago, I had a bankruptcy. I was young and stupid with a bunch of credit cards. So was my wife, and I didn't want to go through that again. So I haven't had a credit card since. I buy my vehicles cash. They're typically about 10 years old when I buy them. I keep them for 5 years.
It doesn't strike me that Wade is an impulse buyer anymore.
Well, in part because he learned a tough lesson in his youth. When you're in your 20s and all of a sudden you think credit cards are free money, and you're swiping, then you have to claw yourself out of that debt hole. You learn a lesson that can carry throughout your entire life. I love to hear that story of, I was in dire straits back in my 20s, but I learned a lesson. Now I'm doing great.
And here's Sabrina's story. She lives in Cedar Hills. She called yesterday, and she said, one day she's talking to a financial guru, and she got a wake-up call.
Several years ago, I was talking to a representative from where I have insurance, and they transferred me over to a person who gives financial advice, and he said, you make enough money to get out of debt. Live differently starting tomorrow, and you can do it.
Live differently.
At that time, we had 2 different car payments and, various consumer debt, and I just made the decision at that moment, we're done.
Live differently starting tomorrow. I just love that. It really can be changed that quickly. And these folks that lived an experience and realized, changes can be made and made immediately, though you don't necessarily get out of trouble overnight, it still can be a mindset that changes overnight.
It's 10:30 at KSL News Radio. I'm Dan Bomis. KSL's top local story this hour. And we have breaking news. There's a preliminary report now from the National Transportation Safety Board. It says investigators found a leaking gas main near the home in South Jordan that exploded earlier this month. A teenager was killed in that explosion. The report says subsurface gas was found as far as 250 feet away from the leaking gas main. The leak wasn't discovered and isolated until noon the day after the accident. Our top national story this hour from ABC News. New evidence backs up the story from 2 women who say Defense Secretary-designate Matt Gaetz paid them for sex. We have details from ABC News senior White House correspondent Selena Wang.
ABC News has exclusively obtained financial records that show Gaetz appeared to have paid them more than $10,000, including 27 Venmo payments. But even if the House Ethics Committee chooses not to release this report, it is possible that the contents are leaked or that it comes out during those Senate confirmation hearings.
The House Ethics Committee is debating whether to release its report on the former congressman, even though the House Speaker says this shouldn't be made public. Your money at this moment, the Dow Jones average down now 95 points on the day, while the NASDAQ is down 127. And our KSL weather, partly cloudy skies and warming temperatures. That's next. KSL News Time, 10:32.
It's a priority for us at this station to bring you all sides of a story and to talk about the news fairly, completely.
Get all the facts and be really aware. Utah's Morning News with us, Tim and Amanda.
Weekday mornings 5 to 9 on KSL News Radio.
Russell Fawcett, owner of the Stern team of Omada Real Estate, is joining us right now because we were discussing how the election, and now things have settled a little bit with the election, how the real estate market is responding well. Now, Russell, if someone is thinking about selling their home, but they're worried about this being a stressful experience, we're in the holidays as well, walk us through some of that.
Yeah, so the biggest thing I think is to sit down and have that initial consultation where we actually lay out the goals and the plan. I don't know if you've ever done anything by winging it. It typically is 10 times more stressful, right, than if you have a plan. But if you have a plan that you're going to follow, so really we start with, what do we have to do to prepare your home to sell? Is there any decluttering that we need to do? Then we'll go over pricing, and then we'll talk about what we're going to do to market your home to get the best price for it. Then we, put it on the market, go through the showings, the negotiations, and the closing. So all in all, it actually is a fairly simple process if you understand it and have a plan.
When I sold my home recently, I think one of the great moments was when I was sitting down with a real estate agent and they did go through the valuations because, quite frankly, I didn't know what to expect. And sometimes that simple sit down can answer your question. It will either motivate you or maybe it will tamp down your excitement.
Yeah, and really when you're selling, right, you're selling for a reason. So you want to know what you're going to net when it's all done. Right. What is my home likely to sell for? And then you can, again, plan for what's next as well. How much money am I going to have in my pocket to buy my next home?
Can you tell us more about the technology your team uses that's been beneficial to sellers, Russell?
Yeah, so we continue to invest in technology, and we are continuing to come out. But I think the one that is being used the most is our home valuation tool, where you no longer have to call and actually have that consultation to find out what your home's worth. You can just go to our website sternteam.com, enter your information, and you'll quickly have a valuation of what your home's worth.
Sternteam.com. That's where you can find that home true value. I like the true value. Like, this is what you're really going to get, folks. We're not just gonna overinflate things. This is the true value. Learn it in just 30 seconds by visiting the sternteam.com.
Want to avoid getting sick this fall? Getting your immunizations is a classic approach. You can protect yourself against the flu, RSV, pneumonia, and COVID. Does that sound like music to your ears? Then talk to a doctor or healthcare provider. And visit uptodate.utah.gov to learn more.
When you choose Performance Automotive in Bountiful, you're choosing selection, convenience, and exceptional service. 4 locations: Performance Ford Lincoln, Performance Honda, Performance Toyota, and Ford Truck Country. All dedicated to delivering you the best auto experience anywhere. Looking for your first car? Maybe you want rugged power or the stylish ride of your dreams. New or used. See it all at PerformanceBountiful.com. PerformanceBountiful.com.
Traffic and weather together brought to you by Sinclair's DinoPay app. Save up to 20 cents per gallon. And here's Heather Kelly.
We are finally delay-free on the I-15 corridor, both northbound and southbound, trying to get into downtown Salt Lake City. But you are going to see some congestion areas on other roadways, like Bangerter Highway around 98 South in the construction zone, and as you head northbound on Bangerter trying to get to the 201 freeway. The rest of the drive looks pretty good on the east and west side belt routes, 201 freeway, and I-80 through Parley's Canyon. This holiday season, Murdoch Chevrolet is grateful for you. Take up to $5,000 off a Silverado heavy duty or 1.9% for 6 years on a Silverado light duty. Heather Kelly in the KSL Traffic Center.
Partly cloudy with a high of 52 today, up to 61 by Friday. Right now, 43 degrees and partly cloudy. I'm Dan Bomis from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Dave and Dujanovic, your morning companions for talk, analysis, and key perspectives on Utah's biggest stories. On KSL News Radio, Priced Out, Housing, Special Coverage with Dave and Dujanovic.
I'm so glad that we have Russell Fawcett, the Stern team of Omado Real Estate, in-house with us today, because I have been looking forward to talking to him, Dave, about... I read an article, actually, it was in the Deseret News, and it's about innovative strategies to help buyers secure a 5% mortgage interest rate or below. And I'm like, how is this happening? Because I'm seeing billboards on I-15 that say it's, interest rates are closer to 7 right now.
Yeah, and we had seen this little bit of a dip. Obviously, when we were really going through it, mortgage rates and the Fed is just raising rates left and right. Well, we had seen these mortgage rates go up to 7. Then we saw a little improvement where it started dropping down into the low 6s, maybe even the high 5s, mostly the low 6s. So when you say a 5% mortgage rate, tell me more, Deb. I want to know this. But actually, Russell, you're going to have to answer that question. How are we seeing some of these mortgage rates land in the 5s?
Yeah, so there's a couple different strategies that we're seeing with buyers. So I would say the 2 most prominent ones are, number 1 is you're buying new construction. So a lot of the builders are actually able to buy essentially loans in bulk, and then they offer them at a lower amount. So in that article, I think it said something like 35% are getting, that's the option they're choosing, is to go with new construction, where they are getting that lower rate. The other way that we're seeing a lot is buyers will actually go in and negotiate with the seller to get a buy down on the rate. So the seller is paying, essentially what they're doing is they're paying additional closing costs so that the buyer can buy down that interest rate.
The thing about that, though, is those are typically just a couple of years of a buy down versus a 30-year buy down.
There's both.
Okay.
So we've seen anywhere. So the common ones, you'll see like a 3-2-1 buy down, a 2-1 buy down, and then you do have a permanent buy down. So it really depends. The permanent buy down is going to be more money out of pocket at closing to be able to buy it down permanently. So the one, yes, we are typically seeing is that they are buying it down for a couple of years, and that brings into one of the other strategies is then to refinance when the interest rate does come down.
Russell Fawcett, owner of the Stern team of Omada Real Estate, in-house with us today, talking about strategies that buyers can use to get their mortgage rate under 5%, which saves a lot of money, right? I mean, can you just give us just spitball or maybe ballpark, Russell, an idea of how much that could save over the course of a loan and their monthly payments?
Yeah, usually on a half a point or to a point, you're anywhere from $200 to $300 a month that you're going to see in a savings, right? So that's why when we see an interest rate actually tick down a full 1%, and this is a nationwide number, but you actually see another million buyers enter into the market. So that's, every time that interest rate goes up by 1%, more buyers are exiting the market, and that's what honestly caused, even with these higher prices, what's caused, things to slow down is because the interest rate.
Can you walk us through some of the why behind interest rates? Because when the market is doing well and how it affects the mortgage rates, what are the trends that we typically see?
Yeah, so interest rates, kind of the way we see it, and this is at the Fed level, is it's one of the ways that they combat, inflation or they stimulate the economy. So they're playing a game of like, okay, when things are going really, really well, they actually want to slow things down so it doesn't get out of control. We saw that where inflation was, 9-10%. It was like, we've got to slow this down. And so what they did is they raised the rate at which banks could borrow money. And then at that point, obviously, then it trickles down to the consumer. And so when they want to stimulate, so during COVID, right, we didn't know what was going to go on with the economy. I mean, the Fed rate got down to 0. And so then banks could borrow at 0% and re-lend that money out at 3 or 4%. And so really, if people are watching, when unemployment goes up, when jobless claims go up, typically rates are going to come down. When the stock market is, going up and getting better, that at the same time, you're probably going to see interest rates go up.
I've never done a buy down. I don't think I've ever been asked from a buyer as a seller to do one. So I have no idea how those work, but it's very intriguing to me to think that, if one of my kids wants to go buy a home, maybe this is a way to get a lower interest rate and get it around 5%, which seems much more palatable than 7%. So without getting too far in the weeds and confusing me, so can you explain how that works? You pay money for it or?
Yeah, so what it is for every, and honestly it goes week by week, but for every about 0.25% that you're going to buy down. So say the interest rate today, roughly 7%. If you want it 6.75, you're going to pay, a couple $1,000. If you want it at 6.5, then you're going to pay more. And the greater it is, so if you're looking for a full point buy down, you're probably $10,000. And again, this is just numbers that I'm throwing out right now. But the idea why that works, and the reason most banks, most lenders, they take on your loan and they resell it. So they get a certain amount of money, right? And so when they have a lower rate, they're not going to be able to sell it for as much money, and so they get the money up front, and then they're able to still sell the loan and make a profit.
A little inside baseball for us there.
Yeah.
But that's why it's a good idea if you're a buyer to negotiate that with a seller to maybe pay for that buy down.
Absolutely. And right now, I do feel like it's a win-win market because sellers are, because of the low inventory, sellers are still getting, top dollar for their homes. I mean, our prices have even went up this year. But it is allowing the buyer to go in and negotiate. So during COVID, you didn't negotiate repairs. You didn't get interest rate buy downs, things like that. But now with the limited buyer pool, even though, yes, sellers are still getting that top dollar, they are negotiating. And that's why we're seeing, articles like this where a lot of buyers are getting an interest rate still in the 5% because they're able to go in and negotiate that buy down.
Russell Fawcett, thank you so much for joining us from the Stern team of Omada Real Estate.
Yep, absolutely. And Russell's going to stick around because we're going to take our Is this the first time you've taken live phone calls from our listeners?
It is the first time.
Awesome. So if you have a question about what we just talked about, if you want more details about that, you're like a computer, Russell, over there when it comes to real estate. We can ask Russell absolutely anything. So let's take live calls straight ahead. Call in with your housing questions, your house buying questions, your house selling questions. For the Stern team of Omada Real Estate and Russell Fawcett, he's standing by, 801-575-TALK, 801-575-TALK, or you can give us a text at 57500 with your question.
Dave and Dujanovic.
Here's a trick to podcasting at work and getting all the Utah news you love.
Download the KSL News Radio app.
The podcast for Utah's morning news and Dave and Debbie are right there. Dozens of podcasts a day.
That's the app for KSL News Radio.
If you're ready to buy or sell a home and you're worried about the current real estate market because of what you've heard from some of your family or friends or maybe even on the news, well, we're here to tell you that you really shouldn't be worried because now is a great time to buy and sell with our friends at the Stern team powered by Omada Real Estate.
And here's why. Buyers have more options due to increased inventory, which gives them the power to negotiate for repairs, interest rate buy-downs, and closing cost assistance, while at the same time, sellers are still getting top dollar for their homes with home values that are higher today than ever before. So whether you're looking to buy or sell, the current real estate market presents a win-win opportunity for both buyers and sellers.
But you still do want to make sure that you're working with a team of real estate experts you can trust that get you some great results, and that's our friends at the Stern team powered by Omada Real Estate.
They've helped thousands of Salt Lake City homeowners, and they are ready to help you. To get started, just go to thesternteam.com or Google the Stern Team.
And joining us right now from the Stern team is Russell Fawcett. Russ, if someone is thinking about selling their home, they're a little bit worried about that stressful experience. Can you walk us through that process?
Yeah, so again, we touched base on this a little bit, but after we come up with the plan, the biggest thing for a seller is making sure they get their home prepped. And so that's where we spend most of our time actually on a listing consultation, is walking room by room with you to go over, okay, like what pieces of furniture do we need to move, or we call it depersonalize and declutter, because we want to make sure when someone walks through your home that they can see themselves living there themselves. And so we spend a lot of time. And then, if you have a vacant home, we'll actually even bring in our stagers, and we can bring in furniture, we can digitally stage it. We want to make sure we present it. We say we have to sell the home twice. We sell it first online, and then we sell it in person. So we make sure we have the professional photos for you, but it really is all about presenting your home in a way that a buyer is going to want to make an offer.
Russell, what about the buyer? What's the first step they should be taking?
Yeah, honestly, one of the biggest things that I think people do wrong on the buy side is they start by shopping for the house and then they figure out their financing. So we want to figure out the financing first. We want to make sure we understand how much can you afford, what payment are you comfortable, because sometimes what you can afford and what payment you're comfortable with are two completely different things. So once we get you there, we want to actually go through the whole approval process. And that turns you into almost like being like a cash buyer, because you're pre-approved. Then essentially our loan is contingent is upon the home appraising for that. And so we want to take that little bit of extra time to get you pre-approved up front. Then we get to the fun part of going out and shopping and looking at homes.
I love that. If you're interested in learning your home's true value, it only takes about 30 seconds. Just go ahead and visit sternteam.com.
Febreze. So my home is also my office, and before I can focus, every room's gotta be clean. That means tidying up, then spraying my Febreze Air Mist. Ooh, that's fresh. Febreze Air Mist scents are all high quality. They fight any weird funk, and they give my air an instant boost of freshness. So not only does my home smell good, I feel good too. After I Febreze, it's time to start my day. Breathe happy, Febreze, la 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 la. Febreze. So my home is also my office, and before I can focus, every room's gotta be clean. That means tidying up, then spraying my Febreze Air Mist. Ooh, that's fresh. Febreze Air Mist scents are all high quality. They fight any weird funk, and they give my air an instant boost of freshness. So not only does my home smell good, I feel good too. After I Febreze, it's time to start my day.
Breathe happy, Febreze, la 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 la.
With the three things you need to know this hour, I'm Dan Bomas. First, investigators found an underground gas main leak the day after a home in South Jordan exploded and killed a teenager inside. Second, students in the Provo School District will have to follow new rules with their mobile phones. Third, the House Ethics Committee debating whether to release its investigation of former Congressman Matt Gaetz. 41 degrees, partly cloudy in Salt Lake City. Back to Dave and Dujanovic on KSL News Radio.
Dave and Dujanovic.
So excited to try something new today with Russell Fawcett, owner of the Stern team of Amato Real Estate. Stuck around live in studio. You've been with us all hour. We were just talking about how to get a better interest rate if you're buying a home, and he gave us several strategies. And then we thought, why don't open up the phone lines to our listeners? You're with us so often. We know that you carry around all this information in your brain, Russell, and so I'm excited because we're already getting some live phone calls.
Let's go out to Daniel in Riverton. Daniel, you got Russ here for you.
Hey, Russell, Daniel. I'm glad to be on the show, guys. Russell, quick question is, how do you view the prices that you see on Zillow and Redfin and those types of websites when the numbers look awesome for the value of my home, but I'm pretty sure it's probably not a realistic price?
Yeah, so one thing you have to understand with Utah is we are a non-disclosure state. So that means most of your online portals don't have access to the true sold data. So what we like to say with Zillow and Redfin, they're good resources, and we treat them kind of like a Fitbit. So they are fairly accurate in the fact that if your home's going up on Zillow, the value of your home is probably going up. But honestly, the only way to get a very, very accurate value is to actually sit down and have someone run recent comparable sales that has access to the sold data. So that would be, a real estate agent that can access the MLS. Same thing with an appraiser. So we're pulling the same information that an appraiser would pull to be able to determine your value. But a lot of your online portals, they give you a good idea, but they can be off by 10% or so.
Russell, I just want to expand on Daniel's question just a little bit and make sure when we talk about a non-disclosure state, what that means is that what a home sold for isn't widely available to the public, but it is available to people in the industry.
Correct. So if it's sold using a real estate agent, we do report it to the MLS, the multiple listing service. And so there are states when someone sells a home, it actually becomes part of the public record of what that home sold for. In the state of Utah, it is not disclosed to the public what the home sold for, and that's why you would want to get with someone that has access to the MLS.
So if somebody sold their home down the street, unless you knew that person and said, hey, what'd you sell it for? You might not have access to that information unless you get with somebody who's in the industry. Okay.
And comparable sales are only one piece of determining your value as well, because you also want to look at the condition. Because, you can have two homes in the same neighborhood with the exact same floor plan, and one that's been recently remodeled and one that hasn't, that can also sell for, quite a bit different. And so I always say the online portals are a good place to start. And when you're serious, then you want to sit down with a professional to start coming up with a game plan.
We're taking your phone calls right now, 801-575-TALK. If you have a real estate question, Russell Fawcett can help you answer right now. So 801-575-TALK. And I would imagine that true sold data that the realtors have is so crucial, because you may have something listed for $475,000, but you sell it for $50,000 more. Or you may have something that it was listed at $600,000 that will only go for $5,000. So that true sold data, I would think, is absolutely crucial.
Yeah, your listings are your asking price, right? That's what a seller's asking, and sometimes there's strategy behind it. If you're looking to generate kind of that auction-like environment, someone might price it low, and then it ends up selling for $50,000 more. Or someone's wanting to test the market, and so they put it up for maybe $100,000 more than what they should have, and the home's probably going to sit. So honestly, just pulling what someone's asking for their house is not going to give you a true value of what your home's worth.
Mike in Springville. Mike, you got Russell here.
Hi, Russell. Just a quick question back to the interest rate conversation you were having. So on the VA-backed mortgage rate, and I know with the VA they offered the ability to sell the interest rate or assume the VA-backed interest rate. How does that work?
Yeah, so it's very similar as far as, so if you have a VA loan, you can offer to allow a buyer to assume that. And so when a buyer is going to assume your loan, essentially the process is very much like them getting a new loan. They're going to apply with your lender to assume that. They're going to go through the same underwriting that they would if they were getting a new loan. But what the VA allows is for them to actually come in and get the loan at your interest rate, which is, as a seller, you can actually sometimes get a premium out of your home because that makes it to where it's more affordable. Because, I mean, I know people that have a 2% interest rate on their VA loans.
Does the buyer have to be a veteran?
So there are different qualifications, and honestly, with that one, I would consult with the mortgage professional to make sure all of the qualifications to assume a loan.
Okay, but the option is out there. Just check into it a little bit further.
Absolutely.
Great, awesome information, Russell.
Bree in Lehigh. What do you think? Is it Bree or
yes.
yeah?
I'm just yeah. I'm just calling to see, like, with the interest rates and for first-time home buying. I know there's a lot of programs out there. I'm just wondering if they're legit, but also with people who are in student loan debt, and I've been told like a debt-to-income ratio is because of that debt. Is that still a problem, or?
Yeah, so lenders are going to take a look at so a lot of it depends on the status of your student loans. You know, are they in deferment? How long are they in deferment for? But when a lender looks at essentially your criteria of can you buy that house, they are going to take into account all of your debts that are recorded with the credit bureau.
We're speaking right now to Russell Fawcett. He's the owner of the Stern team of Amato Real Estate. You probably recognize his voice because you're a friend of the show. You've been in quite a bit. We're walking through real estate issues and concerns and questions. And we just decided, let's open up the phone lines and let our listeners ask you some questions today.
Let's go to Jeremy in West Valley. Jeremy, go ahead and ask your question.
Okay, well, I actually have two questions, come to think of the second one. But my first one is, so you buy a house, 1,800 square feet, unfinished basement, one bedroom. You want to finish the basement, add another bedroom, still square foot is the same, but why does your property tax increase when it's still the same square footage as it was before he added a bed? You know what I mean?
I do. So they're actually going to tax you on, they assess the value based off of the value of the home and the finished livable square footage. And so when they're assessing the value, if the basement's not finished, that home is not worth as much. And so it's just like if you were to buy a car or anything else, you're taxed on the sales price. And so this isn't on the sales price, but it is on the value. So anytime that you add value to your home, and then when it's reassessed, they're gonna assess it based off of the added value.
Can I switch to our text line real quick? We got a text from Mike, and he asks, is it possible to qualify for a home loan with money down and no credit score, and still use underwriting? Does that make sense to you, Russell?
I mean, everyone has a credit score. It's just very limited, right?
Maybe it's a low credit score he's worried about.
And so anytime that someone comes in with that, there are certain strategies that you can do to actually get your credit up fairly quickly. So you may have to wait 3 or 6 months while we build a little bit of credit, but it doesn't mean you have to go buy a car or things like that. Like there are some tips and strategies that we work with first-time home buyers to make sure that their credit is at a point where they can qualify for a loan.
Is there one quick tip you could give us here? Is it something like just like paying some of that credit down and making sure you're making your payments on time?
Well, so there's a difference between no credit and if you're trying to improve your credit score. So if you have credit cards and any one of those if your balance is more than 30% of the credit limit, get it underneath 30%, and you'll see a big jump in your credit score.
That's great information.
That's fantastic. That's the expertise we were looking for. You got to get it under 30% of the credit limit, so you could even ask them to maybe raise the credit limit, and that might bring it down instead of actually paying it down as well.
Yeah, I've literally seen 100-point swings with just that thing of like, okay, I've went too far
wow.
on the credit balance.
Great tip. Russell, great advice. Thanks for sticking around.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. Russell Fawcett, owner of the Stern team of Omado Real Estate, in the house this morning answering your questions about buying and selling homes. Thanks a million, Russell.
KSL FM Midvale.
KSL Salt Lake City.
From the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios, this is KSL News Radio.
Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
It's 11 o'clock at KSL News Radio. I'm Dan Bomas. KSL's top story this hour. An underground gas leak was found near the house that exploded and killed a teenager in South Jordan on November 6th. A preliminary report from the National Transportation Safety Board says the leak came from a gas main beneath 3200 West. Enbridge Gas found and isolated the leak the day after the explosion. Students in the Provo School District will have to follow some new rules with their cell phones. KSL News Radio's Michael Commit has that story.
Starting in January, students of all levels won't be allowed to use their devices during the school day, but exceptions can be made for emergencies and individual accommodations. Along with that, high schoolers can still be allowed to use their phones between classes and during the lunch period, but at the end of the day, district leaders tell the Daily Herald this is about building ideal learning environments, not about demonizing smart devices.
District leaders calling on teachers to set the example for their students. Our top national story this hour from ABC News. The man charged with kidnapping and killing Georgia nursing student Laken Riley has been found guilty. Defense attorneys for Jose Antonio Ibarra opted to have their client's case heard not by a jury, but by Judge Patrick Haggard alone. Ibarra's case drew a lot of attention during the presidential campaign because he crossed the U.S. border illegally. Your money at this moment, the Dow Jones average down on the day right now, 72 points. The NASDAQ is down by 138. And a KSL weather. We've got a couple of partly cloudy days where the temperature's warming up. That's next. KSL News Time, 11:01.
Here's a way to get breaking news updates anywhere you go.
At the store or in a work meeting, you can get breaking news on your phone.
You can quickly read it, swipe, or click for more. It's super discreet, super fast.
That's the app for KSL News Radio.
Food brings people together, but many families don't know where their next meal is coming from. In Utah, 317,000 people, many of whom are children, are struggling with food insecurity. And Macy's is continuing the tradition of bringing hope to families in need. You can help provide hope by donating to Macy's Harvest of Hope Drive, now through November 30th. All donations will be donated to a local food bank to serve families in our communities. Purchase an icon for any amount or a prepackaged bag of food with items that food pantries need most at any Macy's store or online at Macys.com. Look for items tagged with the Harvest of Hope icon throughout the store. A portion of sales from those items will also be donated to local food pantries. Together, we can make a difference in our communities and provide hope to families and children facing food insecurity. Visit Macys.com or your local Macy's grocery store to learn more.
Can we talk, Amanda, for just a minute about UCCU's elevated checking? We haven't done that in a while.
And elevated checking at UCCU has so many benefits. I mean, bigger, better benefits that you probably know. For instance, it comes with a lot of lifestyle benefits like cell phone protection and 24/7 roadside assistance. The thing I use a lot is telehealth with no copay.
Yeah, that is amazing. And security benefits, too, like identity theft monitoring, something I didn't even know existed, dark web monitoring, And they have identity theft resolution with up to $10,000 in ID theft reimbursement.
Plus, Elevated Checking comes with awesome financial benefits, of course, like free ATMs nationwide, an exclusive discount on any new UCCU auto or RV loan, and access to UCCU's credit score toolbox.
You should also know that Elevated Checking is so easy to get for free. All you have to do is use your debit or credit card or set up your direct deposit.
So how do you get Elevated Checking? Just go to uccu.com/elevated.
UCCU, love where you bank.
If you're living with dry age-related macular degeneration or dry AMD, you may be at risk for developing geographic atrophy or GA. GA can be unpredictable and progress rapidly, leading to irreversible vision loss. Now there's something you can do to
slow it down and get it going slower.
Izervay is proven to slow GA progression.
Izervay gets GA going slower.
Izervay or avacincaptad pagel is a prescription eye injection used to treat GA. Don't take it if you have an infection or active swelling in or around your eye. Izervay can cause eye infection, retinal detachment, or increased risk of wet AMD. Izervay may temporarily increase eye pressure. Your vision may be impaired after an eye injection or exam. Don't delay. Ask your doctor about Izervay today.
Izervay gets GA going slower.
Visit Izervay.com. That's IZERVAY.com.
Traffic and weather together brought to you by Sinclair's Dino Pay app. Save up to 20 cents per gallon. And here's Heather Kelly.
Well, no delays right now along the Wasatch Front in Utah, Salt Lake, Davis, or Weber counties. I-15 still has most of your traffic, and a lot of that is still trying to go into downtown Salt Lake, but no accidents reported there. Where we do have a crash reported is in Parley's Canyon. It's eastbound I-80, about a mile before you get to the summit, but it doesn't appear to be causing any slowdowns. Heather Kelly in the KSL Traffic Center.
Partly cloudy with a high of 52 today, up to 61 on Friday. And right now we're at 43 degrees with partly cloudy skies. I'm Dan Bomas from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Following up this morning on a story that we broke earlier that the National Transportation Safety Board, which has been investigating this natural gas leak and explosion at a home in South Jordan that happened just a few weeks ago, earlier this month, has released its preliminary report. It doesn't tell us everything, but it certainly gives us a lot more details about what happened on that November day, November 6th, at 3:09 in the afternoon at that home in South Jordan, Dave.
And there's many resources from this preliminary report. There's going to be something far more comprehensive coming at a later date, but this preliminary report said that the NTSB has worked with the Office of the State Fire Marshal, the Division of Public Utilities here in Utah. They're with the Department of Commerce. Eric Cabrera joins us right now, KSL News Radio reporter. And Eric, have we had any luck reaching out to anyone to speak on behalf of this new report?
Sure. So I actually reached out to the fire marshal, like you said, who's involved, Ted Black. He actually said that he can't talk to me about it and that I have to reach out to the NTSB, which is the National Transportation Safety Board. So I did do that. There's some contact information on their site, and I've reached out. Haven't heard back just yet, but I'm hoping that they're going to reach back to us so we can get more.
And I know our producer, Caitlin Johnston, has been teaming up with our newsroom as well, and she had reached out earlier to Enbridge Gas, which is the gas company. And let's dig in now to what this report does say. It's a lot more in depth than I was expecting it to be, and it came out a little earlier than I was expecting it to come out.
Sure.
But it does give us some insights. Eric, why don't you start with your takeaways from this preliminary report by the NTSB?
Absolutely. So, a lot of this actually didn't really surprise me because I was there the day that it happened, and then I went back and did a follow story as well, talking with neighbors the next day, and that smell of gas was very clear outside. If you were on that street, you could smell it. And even the next day, there were crews there working on a line in that street. And so to me, it's kind of not a big surprise that it was, in fact, a natural gas leak. Sounds like this main line was about 150 feet northeast of the home. and it was installed in 1976. They say that when they pressure tested it, it was within the allowable legal limit, but for whatever reason it failed. We don't know all the details as to why it failed, but obviously gas was escaping and making its way up.
And to your point, as you said, you arrived and you could smell the gas. It looks like when the explosion happened around 3 o'clock on November 6th, they didn't get the leak isolated until the next day around noon on November 7th. So, that leak and trying to track down exactly where that was, they found that the gas was underneath the ground, it looks like.
That's right. And what's interesting in the report, too, is that it does reveal that they spoke to the people who were in kind of neighboring homes, and nobody could smell it.
Before the explosion,
correct.
Right?
So what you're saying about the scent of natural gas is when you arrived on scene to cover the story, it was detectable by smelling.
Yeah.
But what this report from the NTSB, this preliminary report says, is that preliminary information indicates that none of the 5 residents reported smelling gas before the explosion, and there was not a natural gas alarm in the home where the accident happened.
Right, which I ordered on Amazon pretty much the next day
because
I was unaware of this.
That these were available. I paid about $31 on Amazon. It does a couple of things. I think it's also a CO detector built in. But do we have any more information? The report does not speak to the victim specifically, like where the individual, this 15-year-old boy, was in the home or outside the home when this happened.
Right.
But it does say that there were no other injuries reported, and that a natural gas-fueled explosion fatally injured 1 person and destroyed the home in South Jordan.
Yeah.
No other injuries reported. But I did not glean any other information about how or where the child was when this happened.
Yeah, it sounds like, when PIOs kind of talked to us on the scene, it sounded like that, yes, they did say he was inside.
He was inside the home.
He was somewhere inside the home, and that's where they found the body. Yeah.
Okay. And when you talk to neighbors, because they had reported here in this NTSB report that it looks like the neighbor to the north, the subsurface gas extended from the main to the backyard and front yard of each home, and they were also referring to the neighbor to the north. Did you have conversations with that neighbor at all? Were you able to track down that person?
So I actually arrived about an hour after that. I know Becky Bruce was there first because she lives kind of near.
Yeah, our news director here at KSL's Radio.
Near there, and from what she made it sound like, they heard the explosion, and they, there were even witnesses blocks and blocks and blocks away who we spoke to that came over, that I did speak to, who said they heard it as well. It was such a loud explosion. They heard it from, miles away. But yeah, luckily no one else was hurt. There was just kind of outside the house damage to homes that were near.
I was wondering about that, how significant the damage was, because when you look at the video or you look at the pictures of this house, it has been absolutely reduced rubble. It's leveled. So the homes, which are very close, are separated by only maybe 20, 30 feet. What kind of damage did you see of the homes?
Oh my goodness. So, when I arrived, the entire street behind the home and sidewalks were just covered in debris and glass. It looked like it had showered glass all over the place. There was even, it looked like a back door, some kind of door was in the street for a length of time while I was there. But yeah, the damage to the neighboring homes was just kind of on the outside. There wasn't really anything missing. There was no big holes or anything in any other homes. It really seemed like it was just isolated to the one home that exploded.
KSL News Radio's Eric Cabrera in studio with us, walking us through what he's been able to learn since the release of this preliminary National Transportation Safety Board report. They're the lead agency in this investigation of a home explosion that happened earlier this month. It happened at about 3:09 p.m. Actually, 3:09 p.m. is what's cited in this report on November 6th. And it killed a 15-year-old Bingham High student. who we're learning from you, Eric, was apparently inside the home when this happened. And were we aware? Did he just get home? Was he just were you able to figure that out when you were out there that day, or had he been home? But this leak does appear to be from outside the home.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So we don't know the context of.
We don't. I will say that a friend of mine actually, his daughter she goes to a dance studio that the young man's sister attends.
Oh, okay.
And according to him, when he told me, he said that for whatever reason he came home early. Now, I don't know the reasons why, but he came home a little bit earlier than normal and actually isn't usually home at that time.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what this report also doesn't cite is how long that leak may have been going on, correct? I didn't read that in this report.
Yeah, I didn't see that either.
Okay, so still lots more questions to be answered, certainly.
Eric Cabrera, thank you so much for joining us. And if some of you are wondering, like I did early on, why the National Transportation Safety Board, the NTSB, was involved, we learned that the NTSB actually deals with the pipeline underneath the ground, the gas pipeline. So that's why they were the investigating agency.
And Eric, will you be continuing to work this story with more on Jeff Kaplan's Afternoon News this afternoon and for Maria's show as well, starting at noon? Eric Cabrera, thank you so much for joining us with this very important update.
Thanks for having me.
Dave and Dujanovic.
A lot of us are filling our workdays with podcasts.
When you're working, go to KSLNewsRadio.com.
Click on Dave and Debbie's podcast and pick a topic and story length.
Podcast with Dave and Debbie. Then get to work with KSL News Radio.
One thing you may not know about your garage door is it needs regular maintenance. This is brand new information for me. I had no idea. Never once have I ever had somebody come out and do a service on my garage door, but Advanced Garage Doors does that very thing.
Well, these are your garage door people now, Dave. Advanced Garage Doors, they're going to be your go-to. Certified technicians are available 24/7 with same-day service.
Yeah, and what they can do, and if they have, if you've had your garage door installed or the motor installed by Advanced Garage Doors, you're going to get a free inspection and a tune-up once a year, free of charge.
And Advanced Garage Doors says this, and I can attest to this. Replacing certain garage door parts by yourself is not safe, and I do believe it should be done with a certified professional.
Yeah, that spring that holds your entire heavy garage door, that thing busts. You want to have a certified professional fixing that thing. That's why you can reach out 24/7 to Advanced Garage Doors. A great way to do it is their website, advanced-door.com. That's advanced-door.com.
Or you can give them a call, 801-252-5977. Let me give you that phone number again, 801-252-5977.
BYU's season comes down to sudden death. Now it's a one-game season. Beat Arizona State for a path to the championship game.
Moa running hard, 15 and 12-yard line for Sione Moa.
This Saturday, it's do or die. BYU, Arizona State. KSL special extended pregame starts Saturday at 11, and kickoff is at 1:30 on Utah's legacy home of the Cougars. KSL News Radio.
When it comes to your electrical system, do you know the warning signs to look for? What's up, everybody? I'm Mike Wilson with Any Hour Services, and it's okay if you don't know, but here are a few things that you might not even realize could be a sign of a bigger problem. Wall plates that are hot to the touch, discoloration around switches or outlets, if you hear crackling or popping or buzzing around switches or outlets, a breaker that trips a lot, switches that feel loose when you operate them, if your lights dim or flicker when a major appliance comes on, if your plugs fall out of the wall easily. You know, you're not supposed to have to bend the prongs out on a plug just to get it to stay in the wall. If you notice any of these things, you should consider having a licensed electrician check your system out. If you don't know anyone, Any Hour Services has put together a radio-only special for any homeowners listening. One of our licensed electricians will perform a comprehensive electrical inspection and give you a full written report for only $29. But you have to mention this ad when you call. To schedule your comprehensive electrical inspection by a licensed electrician for only $29, call Any Hour Services at 801-443-7300. That's 801-443-7300. Any Hour Services. Services.
Hey, what are you doing up on the step stool?
About to clean these light fixtures. The whole family's coming over, and if there's even a speck of dust in the house, my abuela will find it.
Here, I got a Swiffer duster to help with that.
A Swiffer what?
A Swiffer duster. It has this cool extendable handle that reaches 6 feet to get high and low, with fluffy dusters that easily trap and lock dust.
So, no more step stool?
No more step stool.
Easily trap and lock dust from hard-to-reach places with the Swiffer duster. Love it or your money back.
Febreze. So my home is also my office. And before I can focus, every room's gotta be clean. That means tidying up and spraying my Febreze Air Mist. Ooh, that's fresh. Febreze Air Mist scents are all high quality. They fight any weird funk, and they give my air an instant boost of freshness. So not only does my home smell good, I feel good too. After I Febreze, it's time to start my day. Breathe happy, Febreze, la 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 la.
Wendy's new mushroom bacon cheeseburger. Roasted mushrooms, crispy bacon, Munster cheese, and creamy garlic spread on Wendy's fresh, never frozen beef for a limited time only. Gotta be Wendy's.
911, what's your emergency?
Someone on the other line said they kidnapped my son.
On September 12, 1995, McKay Everett disappeared from his home in Conroe, Texas.
There was no sign of forced entry. It was just as if McKay had walked out of his own free will.
And to this day, McKay's mother, Paulette, feels that justice was never truly served. Ransom is available now. Listen at ransompodcast.com or wherever you get your podcasts.
With the three things you need to know this hour, I'm Dan Bomas. First, a preliminary report from the National Transportation Safety Board says there was an underground gas main leak near the home that exploded and killed a teenager earlier this month in South Jordan. Second, Utah's Attorney General has joined others in a lawsuit to demand the states regulate cryptocurrency instead of the federal government. And third, a storm from a so-called bomb cyclone being blamed now for 2 deaths in the Pacific Northwest. 43 degrees, partly cloudy in Salt Lake City. And back to Dave and Dujanovic on KSL News Radio.
We're going to take you back a few years and talk about the Gabby Petito case and the wrongful death lawsuit that was filed by her family against the Moab Police Department. There has been a new and a very important development that has happened in the last few minutes in that case.
And you'll remember Gabby Petito was traveling with her fiance, Brian Laundrie. They were producing Instagram videos, kind of this van life, where they were traveling around the country and recording it and posting videos online. Adam Small joins us right now. And Adam, we did learn later that Brian Laundrie had killed Gabby Petito. What's the latest update, and can you bring us back up to speed?
Yeah, so a couple weeks, based on what the coroner estimates, after they found Gabby Petito's remains in Grand Teton National Park in Wyoming, we learned of body cam footage in Moab where Gabby and Brian were driving, and someone called 911 saying they thought they saw Brian slap Gabby. Moab police find their van, pull them over, pull them apart, talk to them like how they typically handle that. And there was some controversy that developed because there were no arrests made. They did separate the two for the night, but then they ended up going off on their van life, continued the next day. And about 2 weeks later, Gabby was murdered.
What's the development that just happened moments ago in this case?
So I give that context because the family ended up filing Gabby's family filed a lawsuit against Moab Police Department alleging wrongful death, that they were negligent, basically that them not permanently separating them, to my understanding, is what eventually led to Gabby's death. That's their allegation. But a district court judge has just granted a motion to dismiss that lawsuit at the district court level. But it's important to note that I've already talked to our KSL legal analyst, Greg Skordas, who's this is definitely going to go to an appeals level court where it will either be brought back to trial court or it will be dismissed altogether.
And one of the arguments, if I'm remembering this properly, is when there is a domestic violence situation, somebody is supposed to be arrested or typically is arrested, and that was one of the complaints from the parents is why wasn't somebody arrested? Because there were complaints, or if I'm remembering the video properly, that even Gabby could have been arrested for attacking Brian. So the question was, somebody should have been arrested, and that would have perhaps raised our attention or the gravity of the situation.
Right, because that does make sense a lot too. Because I remember the parents even writing at one point saying something like they almost treated Brian like the victim when the 911 caller said like, "Hey, I think I saw him slap her." But then at the end of it, I mean, there's also the issue, though, where the police are probably arguing like officers have discretion whether or not to make arrests, even in cases where domestic violence is alleged. But yeah, I think the family's main complaint is that imagine if, there was an arrest made, maybe we could have gotten Gabby home, separated them, something like that.
We're talking about developments that happened just moments ago. Adam Small, of course, in our newsroom here at KSL News Radio, has been monitoring a hearing out of the Moab area, out of Grand County, where a judge has dismissed, am I correct on that, the wrongful death lawsuit that was filed in the case of Gabby Petito, that lawsuit being filed by her family. And you just heard Adam also report that KSL legal analyst Greg Skordas is surmising that at this point there will likely be an appeal. I want to take you back to August of 2021, or the summer of 2021, I should say, when there was that encounter where Moab police made contact with Gabby Petito. And I think, if people don't remember this case, if they haven't been able to keep up with this case, this might jog your memory of this moment.
You want to tell me what's going on? Yeah, I don't know. It's just some days I have really bad OCD, and I was just cleaning and straightening up the back of the van before, and I was apologizing to him and saying, "I'm sorry that I'm so mean," because sometimes I have OCD and sometimes I just get really frustrated. Not like mean towards him. I just I guess my vibe is you're like in a bad mood. And I was just saying, I'm sorry if I'm in a bad mood. I've just been really stressed. I had so much work I was doing on my computer this morning.
And it wasn't but a couple of weeks after that she was murdered by her boyfriend. She'd been traveling across the country with her, both from out of state. I believe it was like the Florida area. Yeah. Correct me on that as well. Adam says, yeah. And he did as well eventually die.
Yeah, so Gabby was reported missing September 11th, 2021. 8 days later, they found her body in Grand Teton National Park. The coroner saying that it was a homicide, a strangulation, blunt force trauma. About a month after that, Brian was found dead, died by suicide in the Carlton Reserve in Florida. And next to him, they found a notebook where he admitted to murdering Gabby.
And the reason we know this, what happened in Moab, is because, as we had mentioned before, somebody had seen outside of Arches National Park, a 911 caller had called and said that he'd seen a man slapping a girl outside of a I'm trying to remember, it was like a co-op or some sort of store there.
Oh, yes.
But yeah. it was that slapping the girl. That was the 911 call. And then when they stopped the two, Brian Laundrie and Gabby Petito, you could hear she'd been talking about, we'd been fighting all morning and he wouldn't let me into the car. And she admitted that when Brian had threatened to leave her in Moab, that he had grabbed her face in a heated exchange, and this kind of stuff is what led to that 911 phone call. And then that's when the police arrived, and they separated the two and started getting both sides of their story.
Adam, any contact yet? And I know this is very early. We've been watching this hearing that you've been able to make with Moab police, the city of Moab, their attorneys have been representing them to get their reaction, or Gabby Petito's family or their attorneys for their reaction?
Not quite yet, but I can tell you just with the sentiment that's been passed around over the last couple of years, because I mean, this lawsuit was filed 2 years ago. This has been a long time in the making today. I imagine Gabby's family are pretty distraught because they, at the end of the day, they lost their daughter, and they felt like, maybe there was something Moab police could have done to prevent this.
Do you know if the dismissal hinged on governmental immunity?
Yes, it did. So the plaintiffs, the defense, so the attorney representing the Moab police, he argued Utah has a governmental immunity act, which even in cases of assault, battery that even eventually lead to someone's death, they are protected under this clause in Utah statute from lawsuits. So that's what they argued, and that's what the judge ultimately decided. Yes, I'm going to grant the motion to dismiss based on governmental immunity.
Refreshing my memory, going back to an old NBC.com article, police determined after they had interviewed the two that Gabby was the primary aggressor. And instead of making the arrest, that's where they separated the two for the night, and that they had the police chief had said that they lacked enough evidence to justify criminal charges. That's what they were saying, several years ago.
Well, and this is certainly going back to governmental immunity, Adam. I know just covering courts and many, many cases, whether it involves schools or the health department even, police officers, there is that Governmental Immunity Act, and it has been in place for a number of years. And I've covered numerous stories where cases have been dismissed because of this particular aspect of our law that grants governmental immunity. And I'm sure that's going to be one of the many angles that you and our team of reporters and producers are going to be looking into as you continue to track the latest development that the wrongful death lawsuit that was filed by Gabby Petito's family against the Moab Police Department has been dismissed. However, in your coverage and your conversations, you think that this could be subject to an appeal.
Yeah, and it sounds like this is definitely going to go to an appeal. So.
Adam Small, thank you for joining us with the update.
It's 11:30 at KSL News Radio. I'm Dan Bomis. KSL's top local story this hour. Once again, we have breaking news. A Utah judge has dismissed a lawsuit against the Moab Police Department filed by the family of Gabby Petito. Petito was murdered in Wyoming just 2 weeks after Moab police were called to investigate a claim of domestic violence between her and her fiancé, Brian Laundrie. The family filed a wrongful death lawsuit claiming officers were negligent and ultimately responsible for his death. The case will likely be heard by an appeals court, where it will either move forward or be dismissed altogether. Our top national story this hour from ABC News. There's a storm hitting the Pacific Northwest, what meteorologists have called a bomb cyclone. 500,000 people have no electricity there. ABC's Alex Stone reports.
Among the victims who have been killed, one was a woman who was hit by a falling tree in a homeless encampment. The other was a woman who was taking a shower when a tree fell into her home. Roads around Washington state are closed. The storm's impacts are moving south and will drop rain and wind all the way into the San Francisco Bay Area into the weekend. Alex Stone, ABC News.
Your money at this moment, the Dow Jones average down right now, 56 points, while the NASDAQ is down 132. And our KSL weather, we've got partly cloudy skies, and that'll stay with us for a couple of days. That's next. KSL News Time, 11:31.
News doesn't just mean information or dates.
It's the story of our local history being told in real time.
Be a part of the story. This is Tim Hughes and Amanda Dixon.
We hope to be a part of your story. We have you covered on KSL News Radio.
One of the things I love about Salt Lake City fat loss was the results. Big results, that's what I was looking for. With Salt Lake City fat loss, they told me, we have the secret to lose up to a pound of fat a day. And sure enough, that's what I saw. In 60 days, I lost 57 pounds. And I think more than just losing the weight, I learned some things about myself. I learned about some of the bad habits that I had. And I also learned that eating healthy, eating smart is not as difficult as I thought it was. And that was fantastic. That's allowed me to really maintain that fat loss. And that's what it is, right? It's the fat loss. It did it without injections, did it without any surgery. So if you're interested, go ahead and reach out to Salt Lake City Fat Loss. A great way to do it is just online, slcfatloss.com. That's slcfatloss.com.
In 2024, dating is a disaster. We've been ghosted, breadcrumbed, stuck in situationships. Hi, I'm Debbie. I'm Caitlin. Welcome to our new podcast, Dating at Her Age. Dating has been so dicey for us, we asked KSL, can we launch an all-new podcast about it?
People use these dating apps. You're not really dating when you're on the dating app.
Dating at Her Age. brought to you by Mountain Home Services. A new episode drops every Thursday on KSLNewsRadio.com.
Wesley is a truck driver.
I drive a truck, and I love what I do.
A truck driver with IRS troubles.
They told me I owed them $43,000.
It got really bad.
Quite a few letters in the mail. They were talking about wage garnishment, coming after my house, my car. Yeah, they don't play around. I seriously thought that I was going to lose everything.
One sleepless night, Wesley finally made a call to Optima Tax Relief at 2 a.m.
Kind of figured I'd get a machine, but I didn't. I actually got to talk to an actual person in the middle of the night.
He found just what he was looking for.
Oh, they were great people. You need a team of people that know what they're doing. Optima Tax. They know what they're doing.
Optima Tax Relief came through with flying colors.
I saved an incredible amount of money. Happy don't even come close. I was absolutely overjoyed.
Take Wesley's advice.
If you're in any kind of trouble with the IRS, call Optima Tax Relief. Don't trust anybody else.
Call Optima for a free consultation. Call 800-343-6460. 800-343-6460. 800-343-6460.
Optima Tax Relief.
Some restrictions apply. For complete details, please visit OptimaTaxRelief.com.
Traffic and weather together brought to you by Sinclair's Dino Pay app. Save up to 20 cents per gallon. And here's Ricky Meese.
Right now, we're looking at a nice and quiet drive on all the Valley freeways. Good speeds throughout, including I-15 north and southbound between Ogden and Provo. But heads up, downtown drivers. We do have crews installing a new traffic light, so Salt Lake City PD will be on the scene controlling traffic through the intersection at 4th South and State Street. Ricky Meese in the KSL Traffic Center.
Partly cloudy skies with a high of 52, up to 61 on Friday, and right now we're at 46 degrees. I'm Dan Bomis from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at KSLNewsRadio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Dave and Dujanovic, your morning companions for talk, analysis, and key perspectives on Utah's biggest stories on KSL News Radio. Right on the money. Special coverage with Dave and Dujanovic.
Let's talk about turkey deals because major retailers are leaning into the idea of packaging up your turkey and your green beans and your stuffing and selling it to you at one low price. And I think this is a inflation buster that we should be leaning into. But Dave, you have come at me with this. You're like, why are we worried about turkey dinner? This is the least expensive meal I feed my family all year long, which floors me that you say that.
It is absolutely, without a doubt, no question, not even close, the cheapest possible meal. If you want to feed your family, this is the way to do it. Just do Thanksgiving over and over and over again.
Even before inflation.
Oh, yeah. In fact, I just purchased a turkey right now, 99 cents a pound. You find me any protein out there that is 99 cents a pound.
I don't know where you shopped, but I just saw turkey the other day for 88 cents a pound.
Oh, man. I got gouged at 99 cents.
Let's talk about this Associated Press article. Found it this morning. It lives on KSL.com if you want to check it out. But they walk through, comparing buying store brand products, store brand items for your turkey dinner to name brand items. And they're also talking about how different stores, Walmart, Target, we don't have an Aldi here. Aldi. I'm telling you what. Next time I go to a state, a community that has an Aldi or an Aldi, I'm going because I have done in all my research about how to save money on groceries. This store name pops up quite frequently. So they compare Walmart, Target, and how these retailers are recognizing that turkey meal deals bring customers in. Do you like the idea of buying something like all in one package, Dave?
Yes, it is also the worst way to purchase things.
Okay.
Because what happens is when you see the package, typically, in my experience, and I do the grocery shopping in my family, so I love looking at prices. I love breaking it down. This is my fun. This is my hobby. So when you get it all thrown into, they're like, hey, this one's for $25. But you have to make sure you go in there and see what would the price be individually if I separated it out.
Yeah.
For example, I got to make sure, am I paying $1.29 a pound for the turkey? am I paying $3 a pound for the potatoes?
Deal. Yeah, in the meal deal.
You really got to make sure you break it down because, again, to this point that there's not a cheaper meal out there than turkey. Think of turkey, stuffing, potatoes, pumpkin pie. All of this stuff is as cheap a food as you can get. You can get 10 pounds of potatoes for $4.
So we're talking right now about turkey meal deals, and Dave and I sat down not long ago, and we're like, as people are heading into the holidays, and we're heading into the holidays, how can we save our listeners some money, give you tips? We've been giving you all kinds of tips this week on staying out of debt, tips coming in from listeners who live a debt-free lifestyle and have for years and years. And this story caught my eye because I feel as though we go so overboard with turkey dinner. And maybe it's a lack of planning. Maybe it's a lack of asking, friends and family who are coming to bring, the frog-eyed salad, and you're doing it all on your own. And so we're not spreading the wealth around. We're not asking for help, and so we're saddled with the entire bill. But I do think Walmart's deal here that I'm reading in this AP story, Dave, they broke it down. Eyes over here, Dave. Hello.
I'm looking at...
I want you to listen to this because I want to see what your eyes look like.
I can both listen and look at other things,
I want to tell you what the deal is, but I'm not going to see your eyeballs pop out when I tell you this. Walmart, their deal, offering 29-item Thanksgiving meal bundle for under $55. Serves 8 people at less than $7 a person. Let me see your eyes. What do you think?
29 items?
Items for $55.
That's a pretty good deal.
That's a pretty good deal.
Yeah, if you're breaking it down. Except for the fact it's still too expensive.
You think you do it cheaper?
Oh, Debbie, for $20, you've got a 20-pound turkey. So let's just start off right there. Yeah, you got to cook it. I get it. How much are potatoes? 10 pounds of potatoes for $5.
You gloss over.
What do you want?
You gloss over you got to cook it. Do you realize on my first Thanksgiving with my husband, I undercooked the turkey. It was raw, Dave.
Well,
so
I'm going to be honest. I'll eat a raw turkey before I eat a burnt, overdone turkey.
Don't gloss over that. That's some hard work right there. Target. How about this one, Dave? A meal package, a turkey meal package for 4 people at $20.
That's pretty good.
And it's $5 less than what they offered in 2023. So it's gone down in price.
Again, a lot of it depends on what kind of turkey are we talking about. Are we talking about a whole turkey? We're talking about a boneless turkey. Is it just a turkey breast? Like you gotta figure out the details there, Deb.
Well, here's what I thought was stood out to me too in this article is let me see if I can find it now. I am a big advocate of buying store brand over name brand. Sometimes I buy name brand, but over the years in my research and being in every single store, all practically 24/7 and overnight, I was able to price shop store brand compared to name brand. And if you look up articles on this and comparisons on this, I'll tell you this saves about 25% off your grocery bill. So that's if you're looking to cut your grocery bill. Try that. Start right there. Try store brand over name brand. But when I see it when I actually go and shop, I find that it can save as much as like 40% on my bill. So what I see online when I'm looking up studies and surveys and news articles about it, I actually save more when I go to the store and test this myself.
I think one of the things I like about turkey dinners is you're not necessarily having to buy all the name brand stuff because you're buying a lot of the fresh things. Your fresh potatoes, the stuffing is a box of dried bread, right? That you're basically rehydrating the turkey itself. So you're not getting caught up in really those high-end expensive name brand stuff.
So Wells Fargo has an agri-food institute, and they compared name brand Thanksgiving dinner for 10 people to a store brand equivalent. And the name brand would cost for 10 people $90. The store brand equivalent would cost you $73. Not a huge savings, right? $17. but I'll take that $17.
Yeah, if you do it consistently, I think that's the key. What I want to learn and take away from this is sometimes we look at Thanksgiving dinner or Christmas dinner and we feel the burden of just blowing it, and spending so much money. You're feeding 20 different people, and it can get very expensive. There's a way to do it on a budget, and I think this is a great example. Turkey is a cheap food. All the sides, stuffing, green beans, all that stuff is fairly affordable. This is where I've noticed that it gets expensive. If you don't want to cook the turkey and then you go out and then you buy a turkey, like a cooked turkey, and you have it. Those things can cost $80 just for the cooked turkey. So if you don't want the hassle, then it's a budget buster. If you're going to buy a baked turkey versus doing it yourself. And let's be honest, turkeys are terrible. They're always dry. They're never good.
Well, there's no fat in them.
There's no fat in them. Yeah. You're going to drown it in gravy anyway. So go ahead, cook that bad boy to a burnt crisp. Just cover it in turkey. There's not many turkeys out there that have ever been made that are delicious. So
let's take live calls. 801-575-TALK. 801-575-TALK. I want to know if you buy the bundle. Do you buy the turkey dinner by the bundle? Where you show up at the store and it's sitting right there on the counter for you to take home and feed your family. The turkey, the stuffing, the potatoes, the cranberry sauce. 801-575-TALK. 801-575-TALK. Or are you like Dave? You got to go through the whole store and pick out each item and price shop, and then you take it home to your family, and you wake up at 3 a.m. and you cook the turkey. 801-575-TALK next.
Dave and Dujanovic.
KSL is the only news radio for your car, right?
The only news radio for your smart speaker.
Come here in the morning. It's the latest news and traffic. In the afternoon, news and updated weather.
We have you covered at KSL News Radio.
Hi, this is Doug Wright. Over the years, I've talked a lot about hard water. It takes years off the life of water heaters and other appliances in your home. Leaves scum on the shower walls, and you almost need a jackhammer to remove that. I've talked about how Connecticut of Utah, an authorized Connecticut dealer, their water softeners are maintenance-free. You just don't need adjustment, and they do the job with 2/3 less salt than other softeners. But today, I want to talk about the exhilarating feeling of stepping into a hot bath or shower and feeling that pure, soft water cascade over your skin. It feels like every pore in your body wants to stand up and start singing. And afterward, there are no itchy hard water deposits sticking all over you. You really should look into a soft water system from Connecticut of Utah, an authorized Connecticut dealer. You can learn more about Connecticut by giving them a call at 801-576-8600 or log on to Softwater Utah. Connecticut of Utah, an authorized Connecticut dealer. Then sit back and enjoy your shower even more.
Hi friends, Dan the Laptop Man here from PC Laptops. In celebration of over 32 years of serving humans in Utah with their computer and tech needs, we've slashed our prices. And these are the new 2025 models. Here's the deal. You can get our new 2025 S1 desktop with a blazing Ryzen 5 processor, 16 gigs of RAM, and over a terabyte of blazing fast storage on this promotion. We also have our new 2025 SM3 laptop with the Intel i5 processor, 16 gigs, and over a terabyte of storage for $999. You can take one home today for $999. And you also get the peace of mind of our lifetime service warranty. We also have 12 months special financing available, and they start as low as $29 a month. But hurry in because supplies are limited. Because at PC Laptops, we love you. PCLaptops.com. Take home a blazing fast 2025 model desktop or laptop for $999 at PCLaptops.com.
An airliner takes off from the Pacific Northwest, carrying 101 passengers and crew. Most aboard Flight 293 are active-duty military and their families, headed to Cold War assignments in Alaska.
Surveillance of the Soviet military buildup.
But somewhere over the ocean, with no distress call, the airliner plunges into the icy water below.
Even if all 4 engines quit, that aircraft would fly.
There were no survivors and no bodies were ever recovered. For decades, loved ones were left to wonder
what happened to Flight 293 and why hasn't there been any follow-up.
The government turned its back. Passengers and crew of Flight 293 were forgotten by everyone. except their families.
Unless we pursue it, we will never be issued a true explanation.
Unsolved Histories: What Happened to Flight 293 is available now. Follow us at unsolvedhistoriespod.com or wherever you get your podcasts.
This is Derek Miller speaking on business. Since 1976, Century West Insurance Services has dedicated its combined experience and knowledge in the industry to deliver quality insurance policies specifically tailored to each individual client. President Paul Borup joins us with more.
At Century West Insurance Services, we believe that great insurance is built on great relationships. Our team works closely with clients, not only to craft the perfect personalized policy, but to create a partnership they can rely on. Our personal insurance services are designed to protect you from the unexpected, offering top quality coverage that matches your needs and budget. In today's dynamic world, risks are constant and ever-changing, and your business insurance should keep up. That's why we thoroughly assess your business, nonprofit, or community association in order to deliver creative, cost-effective solutions that fit your specific needs. Our goal is to provide the perfect blend of price, coverage, and service, giving you peace of mind no matter what life brings. Not all insurance agencies are the same. Start with Century West Insurance Services to find coverage that truly fits.
With 6 Utah locations and a team dedicated to personalized service, Century West Insurance Services goes beyond policies to build lasting partnerships. Whether you're protecting your home, business, or family, Century West offers peace of mind through coverage tailored to your unique needs. To learn more, check out their website, centurywest.com. I'm Derek Miller with the Salt Lake Chamber, speaking on business.
With the 3 things you need to know this hour, I'm Dan Bomas. First, a judge has dismissed the Petito family's lawsuit against the Moab police. The family says police should have intervened to prevent her murder. Second, a preliminary report in the natural gas explosion that killed a teenager in South Jordan says a leaking gas main was found near the house. And third, a huge storm, something meteorologists call a bomb cyclone, is soaking the Pacific Northwest. 46 degrees, partly cloudy in Salt Lake City. And back to Dave and Dujanovic on KSL News Radio.
New development in the story that we've been tracking since much earlier in the show today, and that is the NTSB, the National Transportation Safety Board, releasing its preliminary report of that natural gas. They're calling it the natural gas-fueled home explosion in South Jordan. Enbridge Gas and the media relations, communications strategic advisor. We've been reaching out to Enbridge Gas, which is the gas company, for reaction, for comment to this preliminary report. And they sent us a statement. I'm going to read it to you. We just got it moments ago. And here's what it says, Dave. Our company has been a part of the Utah community for over 95 years, and public safety is always our top priority. We are deeply saddened by this event, and our hearts and prayers go out to the Hansen family for their tragic loss. And it goes on to say the NTSB has published its preliminary report, and while federal regulations prohibit us from commenting on the ongoing investigation, we remain committed to continuing to contribute to the investigation. And that is the extent of the gas company's statement at this point.
And as we have been reading through this preliminary report all morning long, I will say when they talk about the commitment to public safety, what we learned from this preliminary report is that the gas leak originated behind the house. There's a road, 3200 South or 3200 West, and the gas leak was found basically smack dab in the middle of the road. But the leak was subsurface. So this was underneath the ground. It was pooling from my understanding. And they had 5 people that said they did not smell anything. So I cannot imagine how impossible the task it would be to try to monitor gas leaks underground with the hundreds of thousands, maybe millions of miles of natural gas pipeline that goes throughout this state. About 80% of homes here in Utah are heated by natural gas, and all of these natural gas lines are going from a larger pipe to a smaller pipe into your house, and having knowledge of all the gas lines or any kind of faulty pipeline issue would be just a overwhelming task.
Maria and her team this afternoon starting at noon, and then, of course, Jeff Kaplan and his team will have much more as this story continues to develop. Our very own Eric Cabrera out in the newsroom still gathering more information on the development today of this NTSB preliminary report being released on that natural gas leak and explosion in the South Jordan area on November 6th.
Right on the money. Special coverage with Dave and Dujanovic.
Dave and I talking about saving money and asking our listeners, you think you'd save money if you bought your turkey dinner by the bundle at a grocery store that's offering you to bundle up, the turkey and all the fixins for one set price? Dave's not convinced.
I've always found that buying it separately and buying everything individually saves me way more money than any kind of quick pick it up, pack, and cook it up. It just tends to be way more expensive. So I absolutely am team buy it one item at a time.
Mason, you're a never buy it by the bundle kind of person, it sounds like.
Never. I'm in the same vein as Dave. I do the grocery shopping for my home as well, and I found it's all cheaper. But there's also another reason why I don't buy these bundles is because I don't think that they're made for flavor. They're made for convenience. I find that if I make my own pumpkin pie, I make my own potatoes, they're much better than any reconstituted potato pearls out there, which is what you get in the bundles. So I do it because it's cheaper to buy it separate, and it tastes 10 times better when you make it yourself.
That's true commitment, Mason. That is true commitment.
Is there a greater abomination in this world than potato pearls? Like, you can't make mashed potatoes. The easiest thing in the history of the world. You boil some potatoes. You throw in a 2-to-1 butter to potato ratio.
I've got a hack for that. I'll tell you
a
about
pound
it
of salt.
I got a hack for you, Dave. Stand by on the
potato
mashed
pearls?
potatoes. No, just mashed potatoes. Mike from South Jordan, are you a buy the bundle kind of a turkey person?
Never would consider that. When you eat Thanksgiving dinner, everything made from scratch.
Wow.
It is food heaven. And my wife, for 47 years, has made everything from scratch, from the rolls to the pies, to the potatoes, to the gravy. And, of course, she's in bed the next day.
Oh, yeah.
Recovering.
Yeah, for sure.
But
it is a true commitment. Yeah, it's a true commitment. No, thanks, Mike,
but
for
a
your
bundle.
Not the bundle. You're not by the bundle, huh?
No. Bundle would be great though with people on a budget. I can clearly understand that.
Yeah, or people who work hours where they just cannot get up at 3 a.m. and stick the turkey in the oven. The Target bundle we talked about was for 4 people, $20. Walmart has a bundle for many more people than that, for $55. I was just curious. I've never done turkey by the bundle, and I just don't do well at cooking turkey, so I try to pop in at somebody else's house.
Nobody cooks a turkey well.
But I undercook it by hours. By hours. You know, they say that little
dangerous
thing pops out. Yeah. Yeah.
You got to use a
it's
meat
also
thermometer.
Humiliating.
Oh, yeah. Oh, did I tell you a couple years ago I was in charge of smoking the turkey? I love to smoke.
I was scared for you.
I finished, that turkey was finished.
I remember this. In like 5 minutes.
8 hours before dinner was going. 8 hours. I had a smoked turkey. And I'm like, I mistimed this greatly. I was smoking that bad boy. I'm slowing it down. I am up all night long trying to adjust the temperature and slow it down. And that bad boy turkey was just cooking right along. And then by 6 a.m., sure enough, it was done.
Here's my potato hack. Okay, and I do this a lot. Is I just put whole potato. I clean them, of course. Whole potatoes, unpeeled. I know, I love it already. I just feel like the peel adds so much flavor. Do you eat the peel on a turkey?
No.
You don't. What if it's a baked potato? I eat the skin.
Of
Okay.
a baked potato?
Yes, absolutely.
You eat that leather?
Time out. You're gonna push me up against the clock here. Okay. So throw all of your potatoes after you've cleaned them in the crock pot. Throw in some chicken broth, water, salt, garlic. Let them go all day long. Let them go all day long. Put that crock pot on the stove. I don't like to leave it on a solid surface countertop because I don't like that heat gathering on that countertop all day. You just never know what's going to do the countertop. So put it on the stove, leave it there all day. You come home, you barely need to touch those potatoes. They mash themselves. And you can
They're
put
not
butter
waterlogged?
No. In fact, I find myself adding more. You'll hate this, Dave. More layers of butter. Maybe some heavy cream.
You're speaking to me. More cream, more butter?
More garlic.
More salt?
You could saute the garlic. Yeah, that's how I do that. Because it's really hard to boil. I found it's like I got to find a hack for the boiling potatoes.
So you crock pot it?
Yeah, crock pot.
I've never heard that before.
Right?
For mashed potatoes?
Yeah, you can also crock pot whole sweet potatoes too.
Sweet potatoes are terrible.
I love them. Okay, real quick. Homemade cranberry sauce or the canned kind?
Oh, give me the gelatinous gunk. Yeah, give me that gelatinous blob for sure.
That thing you just turn that can upside down and put it in the bowl and it just starts to jiggle. I make homemade cranberry sauce.
I don't know if I've ever had the homemade stuff.
You will.
If I like the gelatinous blob, I'd love the homemade stuff.
And Debbie's bringing homemade cranberry sauce to work this week. Lucky you.